6:10. So at this point, we'll have Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco lead us in an invocation, followed by the flag salute. I will ask all those that are able to stand to please do so. Thank you. Good evening. Wow, the battery's low. Great.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you give the city council and all our leaders the wisdom and the understanding to make the right decisions for our community. Protect our police officers, firefighters, and all those that put their lives on the line.
Amen. Thank you. At this point, please face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, first of all, I'll say good evening to everyone. Refreshing past weekend where we had about 1,058 runners. The top runner came in at 14 minutes. 14 minutes. I thought it was 13 something.
No, actually, the final result.
Okay. Did my number change? I know I came in at 24 something. Yeah, okay, 2009 was my best time, which 22 something, right? I saw my record there. So next year I weigh 176. I asked that top runner how much. He says you need to come down to 170. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But nevertheless, we'll move forward. I want to thank the Baldwin Park Police Department, all the individuals, explorers that were out there that participated in this grandiose event, as well as all the different vendors that were there. So it was an exciting morning for a lot of us, and looking forward for next year's 24th anniversary. All right.
And Mayor,
yes, Councilmember
I just want to congratulate a lot of our seniors.
That's right.
That ran, especially Mr. Tyson Lono, who made the San Gabriel Tribune at 90 years old. And I think that is fantastic. He says that running is what gives him energy and keep going. So it was fantastic to see him coming through the finish line.
Yes, and want to also recognize Evelyn Tapia, who's ran since the actual first run that occurred when the Marriott Courtyard was a Hilton Hotel, because that's the first run that I actually did myself out of the 23. I've only missed one of the races because I sprained my ankle at the Santa Fe Dam. But nevertheless, it's amazing. She's 81 years old and an excellent runner as well. Alrighty.
Mayor, I also want to just make sure that we recognize, I know that you said vendors, but I see that La Cocinita's here, and they were once again generous. They have been with all of our events, as well as, I did see, of course, our Public Works, every single employee of ours, but Parks and Recs, I have to really thank you. I know that they were up really early. I mean, we get there at 7:30 ready to run, but they were there since 4 or 5 putting everything together. So it takes a lot of energy to Parks and Recs, the commissioners, and of course, Manny Correa and your staff. Please pass on our thank you and congratulations on a job well done. Thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
may I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I want to apologize for not attending the 5K. I did read all about it. I have an injured back, so I didn't end up going. But I did read the newspaper about the 90-year-old man that did the 5K. Good job, everybody, on a wonderful job. Well, thank you, Parks and Recreation. They also did a wonderful job putting it together. I also want to remind everybody that today the World Police and Fire Games started, the Olympics. I don't know if you were aware. It's in Los Angeles, and it's taking place starting tomorrow, the first games, through the 16th, I believe. I do have a cousin from the police department from Mexico that's here participating, and a few of my niece's co-workers from LAPD are participating. So I want to wish everybody good luck.
Thank you very much.
Sorry that I'm interrupting again, Mayor, but I just, Mayor, I'm sorry, Manny, you weren't there, but I wanted to let you know that your team did a great job with the Piranha Swim team. It was the banquet this weekend, and I was really impressed. I know we have several new employees that haven't been with us so long, but they did an amazing job, so I'm very proud of them. Let them know they did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Manny. Thank you, your staff, for a wonderful event this past weekend. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do roll call, so we're going to have our city clerk, Alejandra Avila.
Councilmember Cruz Baca?
Here.
Councilmember Monica Garcia?
She's here.
She's here. Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rubio?
Present.
Mayor Lozano?
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. At this point, let's council members have any anything else they want to share, I will open up the public communication. Anyone wishing to speak? You have approximately 3 minutes. Good evening. Oh, Christian Lucero, are you the current president? Yes. The Baldwin Park Unified School District. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor
Yes,
Pro Tem,
ma'am.
council members, I just want to clarify something because I don't want you going forward with the wrong information.
I think the microphone is it not working?
Okay.
Oh.
I just wanted to clarify something to make sure that you don't go forward with the wrong information. I am hearing that the school board approved the use of the triangle parcel, and that is not correct. Okay. We considered approval depending on whether they can put up a sign for us or not, and I'm hearing that that's against city ordinance. So I just wanted you to know there is no approval from the city, for the city from the school board. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for updating us on that information.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. First of all, I want to talk about the Walburn project. It's been enough dragging on. Now he wants to extend it another couple years. The DDA is already done. It's a dead deal. In this packet here, I sent around, which Ricardo Pacheco can verify because he called the police on my guy that was doing the signatures. We have signatures from all the peoples over here and all the people over here. They're not passing this. They're not going for it. And we have the attorneys lined up to fight it. So if they want to fight, that's what we're going to do with it. This thing is not going the way it's supposed to go. And they can't even make their mind up on the project that they want. They keep changing it. Now on to your energy deal. I did a little research for you guys, which I wish you'd hire somebody to do your research for you. On this Michael Chapman, Connor Energy. He had a bankruptcy in 2012. Case number 12-14-147, Chapter 7, multiple debtors. And he's got it, filed it under Michael Chapman Consulting and Chapman Ready Engineering. Now, this is a guy you really want to bring in, and you want to give him $65,000 to do some kind of a study. I think the guy has an issue, and he just started this other company in 2013. It's just like he goes from one to the other. Now, what he did find out interesting to do, instead of filing his LLCs in California, he did it in Nevada so that they can stay farther away. You guys need to pick good people when they're going to come in here. Do your background checks. The police have LexisNexis. The police have access to this kind of stuff. The city manager does too. You guys need to do your history checks before you let people come in here and waste your time. And that's exactly what it's done. We can't run our city efficiently, and now you're going to take on an energy program. Nobody's going to go for that. Southern California Edison has been here for years. Now you're going to go in there and lease their equipment and pay for that, the infrastructures. They'll keep changing the prices. The next thing you know, our energy bill will be higher. The solar energy panels and everything that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon on. Figure out the cost factor when those batteries don't recharge anymore and you got to rebuy all the solar energy. And then you got to pay a transmission fee to be hooked to the electric company at all times. People find that out in the apartments when they buy new apartments and there's solar energy. But they also have to pay a fee to be hooked to the Edison company. So we need to do smart thinking and check these companies out before they come in. And back to Walburn, these people have been here, they come, they go, it's all these different ideals. We need new ideals. We have a person that wants to do retail over by where I'm at. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tuttle. All right, move on with public communication. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, City Council. So my name is Tracy Aguirre. I am a resident here of 3 years. I'm also a business owner. We own 2 businesses. La Cocinita is one, and we own Smart Business Solutions here in the city of Baldwin Park. I'm up here in regards to item number 3. I'm a supporter of adding apartments, condos, mixed-use buildings. However, I do not agree with the location in front of City Hall. Here's my reasons why. As someone who lives and owns businesses here, I'm fully invested in the success of the city. With technology changes and uprise in millennials, including myself as a millennial, I'm taking pictures of locations where they're visiting, as well as foods that they're eating, and posting pictures on social media. is something that we do. We need to make sure that our city looks better and it attracts a different demographic. The only way that the city can attract a different market of people who want to shop here in the city is by revamping our downtown. Apartments won't do that. So thank you for taking the time, and we hope that you take our considerations into making our city better by giving our residents a place where they want to continue investing, as well as outsiders a place where they want to come and shop and also dine in. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, move on with public communication. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Briseño. I'm also a partner of La Cocinita and Smart Business Solutions. And I just kind of wanted to give you guys a perspective of kind of what our thoughts are right now. It took us 1 year to open our restaurant, and we were paying dead rent. So it cost us close to $36,000, which we've never really had. So again, knowing the community, knowing that we feel like there's a lot of great people here, up there, we wanted to make sure that we do everything that we can to not say, oh, here's a problem, blame somebody, but fix it. With that said, we want to make sure that we can help the success of the community, and a great way is by making sure that if we are going to add something, again, we're pro building anything that's going to help the community, but we need to be conscious of what we can develop that will generate tax dollars. For example, our business, we started with just 3 people working. Right now we have about 6 employees, and we're going to work on expanding, and our lease is up in a year and a half, so we want to stay here. And we want to be here, and we can generate another 25, 30 more jobs for our local community members, which we partnered up with a program that will allow youth 18 to 24-year-olds to work at our restaurant for 100 hours, so we can help guide them and show them how they can create either a business, work in that same field. Maybe we can hire them ourselves, but the whole goal is help out the community. So if you guys are going to create something there, be conscious of what you can build there to develop, so we can help the business owners, the community. We plan and hope that we can develop something out there with you guys. Depending on what you guys do, you guys have our support. But again, when you're making the decision, let's think about what will make the city better, what can help out the city. There's a lot of future projects that we definitely want to work with you guys to consider. And at the end of the day, we can say a lot of things, but it's your guys' actions that's going to help support the community by making sure that what you guys vote on is what's best for everyone, not just certain individuals. We're really happy to have been here for as long as we have. I've met with most of you guys, and I love all of you guys. There's not one person up there that I dislike, and that's being 100% honest. But I'm also aware that I don't agree with everybody's decisions on what they do, and that's okay. But what I hope you guys can do with me walking away is just really think about what's best for the city. What can we develop where everyone's happy, but it really helps the city and generate more funds, more jobs. The 5K is a perfect example of how many people came from so far away. I know this is something you've worked with, Mayor, very closely, and you run yourself, and I didn't run, and I'm embarrassed of that. I will run next year, so I will say that. But just imagine how many people could have stayed and shopped around right here and bought things. And the cool thing is, we're hidden. We had a lot of people go and shop at our restaurant because we promoted it. We promote everything else. And again, if you guys keep us in mind, we definitely want to work with you guys to see what we can develop here so everyone's happy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving along with public communication. We have a different, are you able to, oh, there you go. There we go. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Danny Damian, resident. I'm actually here to speak about the Walburn project as well. I know that many of us have concerns about the apartments being built across the street. Not that we don't want housing or actually even affordable housing for our community, but just not in downtown. I mean, just off what Tracy and Jerry just mentioned, we have an actually pretty good Metrolink station here. There's nothing in downtown that will attract people coming from the Inland Empire, going to downtown LA to say, hey, let's get off at the Baldwin Park Metro Station and let's spend some tax dollars there. We do need to revamp downtown. It's time that we get something there where people are going to want to shop here. Us that live here don't even stay here and shop here or even spend time here other than Via Mar because there's nothing else to do. I have a business right on Ramona and Main, and I have the other one right across the street from the Domino's Pizza. And the one from across the street from the Domino's Pizza, I actually get clients that say they're traveling from the Inland Empire on the Metrolink station. They call us, set an appointment, they come into our office. All that the apartments are going to do is bring more traffic to our city, and it's going to end up getting people discouraged from even coming downtown. So we need to revamp. We need to get these businesses back on track. And if we build something there that is going to get the people from the Metrolink station to want to stop there and shop in Baldwin Park, that's going to help us bring in more revenue that the city desperately needs right now. So it's not that we don't want apartments in Baldwin Park, just not that location. We need to make sure that we're bringing something in that it's not only going to be convenient for all of us residents in the community and the businesses there, we need to show those businesses that we can bring people there. So if we work together to bring something there that is going to attract more business, that's what we need. So that's the reason why I'm against the project with the apartments there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Damien. Appreciate that. All right, moving along with public communication. Okay, seeing no further interest, I now declare the public communication closed. The first item that we will be taking up in the special meeting will be the presentation regarding the Los Angeles County Community Choice Energy and Joint Powers of Authority. So we have the guests here to come up to the mic. Please introduce yourselves. Appreciate that. Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I use this one, sorry. I'm Bill Carnahan. I'm the interim executive director for LA Community Choice Energy, and I'm back for a second time. And so tonight I propose just to give you a review of what we talked a little bit about last time, and then an update as to where we are with the progress of the program to date. So I thank you for inviting us back, and be happy to answer any questions when we get finished. As we indicated before, we could probably skip that one. The LA County is taking advantage of sponsoring a program on behalf of the cities in the county and itself to create community choice energy options for your citizens and any of the citizens in the county that are currently being served by Southern California Edison. And this is made possible by a law that was passed about 10 years ago in California that applies to PG&E's service territory, San Diego, Gas and Electric's territory, and Southern California Edison. And if you look at the map here, the blue squares represent really the four key elements of the production and delivery of electrical energy. And the one on the left is the investor-owned utility, or the SCE model, which includes the energy portion, which is the top, that's generation purchase of energy. The middle block is the transmission and distribution facilities to get it there. And the bottom block is the portion where they read the meters and provide customer service and all of that. Under the law, the CCAs can actually take over the delivery of energy portion of the service to the customer, not duplicate facilities that are built by Edison, but actually rent those, and you rent those and pay for those services at the same rate that their own customers pay, so that there's really no cross-subsidization between CCA customers and IOU customers. And in fact, given the way the structure is today, the investor-owned utilities don't make a profit on the energy anyway. They don't own generation facilities anymore, and they buy in the market, and they pass that through to the customers. So you're not going to affect the bottom line of Southern California Edison or any of the other IOUs. So it's the green block, the provision of the electrical energy from the marketplace to the customer that the CCA takes care of. And so it gives you local choice, local options, which we'll talk about in a little more detail. The movement, the CCA movement, has actually been in California about 10 years, predominantly in Northern California. And you can see there are probably 50 or 60 cities in Southern California who are in Northern California who grouped into joint action agencies to provide CCA services, and they form the joint action agencies to get economies of scale so that they can take a bunch of small cities, make them big, have more power in the marketplace, spread their fixed costs over more customers so that they reduce those costs. This movement's just now taking effect in Southern California. There are really only 2 CCAs operating right now, well, actually 3, because Lace is now viable, and that's Lancaster and Apple Valley. And so the county started taking a look at creating a CCA primarily for its own customers, the residents in unincorporated areas of the county. In other words, they don't have any other representation governmentally than the county. So the goal initially was to see the feasibility of creating the CCA for the county residents. And you'll see in a little bit where they have done some feasibility studies. But the reason for creating the concept and looking at forming it is it does provide customer choice. All the customers of a CCA will get a choice of rate options based upon what the board of directors of the CCA determine. It does not determined by the CPUC. So the customers have a choice of the rates offered by the CCA, or if they don't like that, they can opt back to Edison. So you're not forcing anyone into doing anything. And as an aside, for the CCAs that have been operating for a number of years, the opt-out rate, which is what it's called, the customers who go back to Edison, is about 5%, or PG&E. So the success rate is about 95%, and that's endured over many, many years in the CCAs that are operating. What rates are being contemplated by LACE is 3 rate tiers, 3 rate offerings, if you will. And we're trying to create this so that the varied interest in LA County. Cities have different personality, different goals, different insights into what they want to do. So the 3 rates that are being offered to the customers attempt to bridge that gap. The one on the left is the sort of the base rate. In California right now, all of the utilities, including the publicly owned utilities, have to have renewables in their portfolios that they sell to the customers. The goal is 30% by 2030 or 2020. Right now, the investor-owned utilities are about 28%, so 28% of what your residents are buying today is renewable. And that's the cheapest rate that can be offered. The CCAs have demonstrated that they can reduce that rate by about 5%. So that's the base, what we call the base offering. If you want to save the most money, that's the one you would pick. The second one is for 50% renewables, so you basically double the renewables in the mix. And this is a decision that your individual customers make, so not everybody has to take the same thing. And basically what we're saying here is you can double the amount of renewables that are being delivered and still save the customers can save about 2% on their electric bill. The third offering is 100% renewables. There are some customers who want to do their part and take the full load, and they can do that. And the cost is about 5% above Edison's base rate today, but you get 4 times the renewable mixes. And so those would be the 3 rates that are being offered, plus the opt-out back to Edison. At the same time, you can imagine customers, by increasing the amount of renewables they take, they're reducing the greenhouse gases. And what we've shown here is that 50%, there's about a 9% reduction in greenhouse gases, and 27% at 100%. So they're doing their part for global warming. We expect, again, the rates to be about 5.3% below those of Edison. The power supply projects can be out of the marketplace. We're looking at least initially starting off with power purchase agreements, not running out and building a lot of facilities. But certainly as the CCAs and the JPA mature, there's really a lot of room and I think a lot of interest for maybe doing some local projects. And we've contemplated that over time LACE would do that, whether they're community solar or rooftop solar or battery storage, those kinds of things. And those will create local jobs as well as providing opportunities for those customers as well. The supervisors did a feasibility study. It looked feasible for the LA County residents who are not served by Edison in the unincorporated areas. They could save money, and it was the right thing to do. And that was about a year ago, and the county said, well, let's open it up to individual cities to join as partners in a JPA. This is not a county organization. The county will be joining as a CCA, just like Baldwin Park would if you choose to join. You would have a seat on the board, just like the county has a seat on the board, 1 seat, equal voting among them, and you're partners, and you're gaining the economies of scale by having other participants in that JPA. So we sort of fast forward now, and we actually have been soliciting members for a couple of months now in the CCA. The current membership, we actually have 2 members now who have gone through the full cycle locally. That is Rolling Hills Estates and South Pasadena. We expect perhaps tonight, West Hollywood is one of our other team members is making a presentation in West Hollywood tonight. We expect that Calabasas will come in the next couple of weeks, and we anticipate Claremont will come in the next couple of weeks. Our goal is to get as many members as we can. The incentive for joining the CCA now versus waiting would be that for the next 6 months, there's no cost to join. So you can actually join as a city, and the county has loaned the loan LACE of $10 million interest-free as startup capital. All businesses need startup capital, and so they've done that, and that'll be repaid over the course of the next year or so. And so we have the ability to do the contracting that we need to do to hire the consultants to provide the power supply, to do the scheduling coordination, and do the billing. Now, it's important to note that, for example, the billing that goes to the customers, it looks just like the Edison bill today. Edison actually gets paid to do the billing for the CCA members. There will be an additional page that will be the energy delivered by LACE and the price for that. So the customers won't see any dramatic change in that regard. But let's talk about governance for a minute while we're talking about the startup at the moment. Each member gets one vote, and virtually all of the issues are scheduled on a one entity, one vote basis. There is the opportunity, because you have to really balance an entity made up of many, many small members and, say, one large member. The little members don't want the large member to dictate and run over them. Vice versa, the large members don't want to be controlled totally by the smaller members. So most JPAs deal with that like LACE does, and that says if an issue passes, then a weighted vote can be called for, so that you then take into account the size of the participation in LACE. But there's a caveat. It takes 3 members to do that. So the largest member, even if they had over 50% of the business, could not dictate the outcome. So it's an attempt to be fair to everybody. And so I think that's important to note, that you would be a full participating member. It's anticipated that would be an elected official, presumably the mayor or someone from the council, and you can have 2 alternates as well. So that's the way we would do the governance. There's one issue that is remaining that's a pretty big issue that has purposely been left for the development of a robust board, and that is the Citizens Advisory Committee. There's anticipated that this board would seek advice from citizens, and it's at this point very generic in terms of the issues that group would explore, how those members got appointed. That's one of the things that the new LACE board will determine as it goes along. And right now we're approaching it very cautiously, because we only have 3 members, and they're not all knowing. So we'd like to make sure we have a robust number of members, so that we have a board of sufficient size that we can really get a cross section of LA County, and then we'll make those kinds of decisions. And so getting in early will give you an opportunity. Within that 6-month period, will give you an opportunity to help make those decisions and shape what what LACE is going to look like. I guess the only other thing that I might add is we have been working very closely with the San Gabriel Valley COG, and I know your city manager has been involved as well, and we've had work sessions with some of their subcommittees, and about 2 weeks ago, the board of the COG endorsed our concepts. So there is some oversight that's taken place, and some knowledge that's been imparted, and back and forth discussions with them. So I think the rest of this we've covered already. Unless you have questions, maybe I'll be cognizant of your time and just stop here and see if there are any questions.
I have a question, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor Susan Rubio.
Just really quick, so you said that you went to the COG and to receive their endorsement. Can you tell me in what form did you receive their endorsement? Did they publicize it? Did they unanimously take a vote? Can you share that for me, please?
Yeah, it was an agendized item on their agenda, and they actually took a vote. There were 2 or 3 abstentions. I'm not exactly sure who all they were, but there were no votes. All the rest were aye votes.
And that's just to endorse your concept, correct?
Yeah, Yeah, we went to them. Initially, they had a lot of questions about it, and I came on I've been on board with Lace about 3 months, and in the beginning they were very skeptical, and they were not readily endorsing anyone. And we worked with them over time, answered the questions, like I say, made presentations. We had a public meeting where folks came in, the COG folks came in, and we answered questions with them, and then we took it back, and the staff recommended endorsing the concept, and they did.
Can you just sort of reiterate, and I'm sorry, I just lost what you meant. You're saying that there's only a 6-month period of time where you can join without having any charges and encourages to join, correct?
The way it's been set up is to actually encourage folks to come in early and not sit and wait, because we think it's important that folks get in and help shape the organization. The commitment that has been made by the board is that for the first 6 months, you can get in with no cost. After that, you could still get in, but the board may have made obligations or may say that, well, to get in now, it's going to cost you something. And we don't know. I don't know that. That's not going to be my policy. It'll be theirs. So we can guarantee you for 6 months, there won't be. After that, there might be, okay, just in terms of full disclosure.
Well, I would be a little concerned only because I know it's a new concept, and I understand you're trying to shape, what that's going to look like. And so my concern would be like joining the organization and having people like myself that clearly I'm asking you the questions because I'm not a professional. So I just wonder what that would look like when you have a lot of new people joining the board and that don't understand. I mean, who do you have as a backup to really guide the board and go through those little more important details that as elected officials we wouldn't know what to do?
That's a fair question, and I assume that the city is probably in lots of JPAs of different types, and there are 2 ways I think you cover that. First, you hire very competent staff, just like you do with the city here. You get competent folks to, your lay people also, to tell you the options, the pluses and minuses, help you work through decisions. It's your decision, but it needs to be an informed decision. So first of all, you would want to make sure as a board member of LACE that you hired good, competent staff. By and large, a lot of the work will be done by contractors. For example, the power supply portfolio, figuring out what projects you need to serve the loads and whatnot, is a fairly sophisticated business. And quite frankly, LACE, I don't believe, will be hiring that talent on staff. There are probably half a dozen companies out there that do that have the computers and the algorithms and know how to operate in the California market. And we actually are getting ready to issue an RFP, request for proposal, for those services. Then you have to have scheduling coordination services, which hour to hour it has to be dispatched in California. We propose that that'll be by contract also, not by staff. We're getting the best talent we can to do that operation. On the billing side, and we're going to do an RFP for that next week or so. On the back end, the billing side, we actually met today with the proposer to our last RFP, request for proposal, to provide those services. So that the LACE staff will actually be contract administrators. They'll know the business. I mean, I'm not going to be the permanent executive director, but you would want to have an executive director that's been in this business. I've been in the public utilities business for 50 years, so, and I've worked with boards and councils over those years. And so that's one way you would do it. I think the second thing you would want to do is with one of your alternates, you might want to appoint one of your staffers to be an alternate to sort of follow the details and to tee things up for you or to summarize things for you who are maybe a little more technical in some of those areas. That's not required, but it probably would be, you all are busy and have lots of other things to worry about, and it might be helpful to have a staffer as an alternate who can kind of follow those things and help you also. So that's the 2 ways I would make sure the board made intelligent choices.
Now, my next question is, I know you discussed hiring permanent people that are professionals. So who would be making the decision to hire those people?
The board.
The board, so that would include anybody that joins?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Well, I would just say, I know because I've been part of a lot of organizations that we've joined, and sometimes there's a tug of war in terms of who we hire and who's hiring and who's making the decision. I know we've seen it in the COG in the past where, some people are not happy with the hiring. It's a back and forth fight. So I'm just a little curious of how that's going to go with everyone being new and trying to make that decision. But anyhow, thank you so much for answering my questions. Really appreciate it.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Oh, no, it's me.
Oh, Council Cruz Baca, sorry about that. Hello.
That's okay. I have some questions for you. You said that after 6 months there would be a cost. I was at one of the presentations at the COG. However, I never heard that there would be some type of a fee after the 6 months. Would you have any idea at all what that cost would be for us to opt in at that time?
Well, let's look at the next 6 months. Phase one of LACE will be serving the county loads in the unincorporated area. That's phase one. The city loads would come in phase two, which would be June of next year. And so that the commitments that would be made between now and the end of the year, I think, are very, very minor. So I don't anticipate there to be any big commitments made that the city would have to buy into over that time period. But I'm just telling you what the policy is. And again, I think it's as much a marketing tool as anything to get folks to come in early, which is good for them so they can be a part of development.
My other question is the vote or one vote per city etched in stone? Because I remember that I had brought up the question at that particular COG meeting. You take a city of Los Angeles that it's all the way from Silmar near Santa Clarita all the way down to Redondo Beach. I mean, I can't see a city that size having just one vote. Will there be exceptions for cities over 100,000 population, or because that was never discussed? And it seems to me like one vote for the city of Los Angeles just seems a little far-fetched.
Well, two things. One is the city of Los Angeles is a publicly owned utility, a municipal utility, so they're not eligible to join, okay? Neither is Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, Riverside, Anaheim. They're all public utilities. So we're talking about the loads in the county, and they're represented by the county government, not city of LA government. Now, with regard to the size, I can only relate my own experience. I was the manager of a joint action agency for the last 17 years that included publicly owned utilities, including LADWP. And I tell people we have the same voting structure. I was there 17 years. We never had a weighted vote. And one of my members was LADWP, the largest publicly owned utility in the nation. And one of my other 12 members was the city of Banning, one of the smallest municipal utilities in the United States. They each had one vote. In the 17 years, we never had a weighted vote. So my experience has been that's pretty phenomenal that you can work those kind of things out.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. At this point, Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here again and
My
for
pleasure.
your presentation. I think it's been very helpful. There are a few questions that I have.
Sure.
And you mentioned the economies of scale. And so that would suggest that there are costs associated with the administration of this program. So I want to understand that a little more. And I understand that by opting into this Joint Powers Authority, it creates an organization that would be required to form a board, to have an executive director.
Yes.
When you talk about competent staff, are we talking about full-time staff or contracted staff?
Probably a combination, but primarily, as I envision it, I think our work plan calls for a staff 18 months from now, when we've got a lot of members in, of being maybe 10, 15 people, not hundreds of people. And that probably could be supplemented by part-timers. I mean, you all are going to be the board members, so you can control a lot of that in terms of the staff development as it takes place. So it's not labor intensive in that regard, because we are contracting out. If we were to do our own scheduling services, for example, you might have 10 or 15 people just in that effort, but it doesn't really pay when you can actually take an entity that provides those services for 10 cities and spread the costs over those 10 rather than have them just do it for you. So that's what economies of scale are all about, is as you can take whatever fixed costs you have in any business, and the more volume you have, you spread it over more people, the cost becomes less and less. And so that's really the concept of trying to get enough critical mass that even when you go into the marketplace and you're trying to buy the commodity, buy energy from a producer or do a contract, the larger you are in those contract negotiations, the more clout you have in lowering the price. That's really the whole concept. And over time, it's proven to be true. I mean, JPAs are very successful in their structure, and that's the basic concept, whether it's staff or commodities that you're buying. That's really the real cornerstone of the JPA operations.
Right, I understand. Now, if there are 10 to 15 people that, let's just throw that number and use that number as an example, because we don't know. But let's say there are 10 to 15 full-time people. That would suggest that there are pensions and salaries, and I know it'd be economies of scale and spreading out the cost. Yeah. But what liabilities, like future liabilities, would the city incur through joining a JPA like this?
Okay. Well, first of all, the JPAs, and we have a legal opinion with regard to the city's, if the JPA were to default, the city's obligation is zero. It's a separate entity, much like an LLC, for example, that if it were to fail, that is not going to affect the city. It has the ability to issue debt, tax-exempt debt, like a city does, to build projects, which are pretty reasonable interest rates, and so you can do those kinds of things in the legal entity. And the control of the entity is with the board of directors. Okay, including setting rates for the customers. So, I don't know, is there another part to your question?
Yeah, so if it's zero obligation, but there are salaries and pensions that will be paid, then is that paid through what we anticipate will be
all of the
revenues?
revenue that supports the JPA operation comes from the sale of energy.
Okay.
Okay. And the salaries and the benefits will be set by the board. And you can choose to do whatever you want or whatever is needed to attract the kind of talent that you want.
Okay.
Excuse me. I think it would be.
I'm not done with my questions. Thank you. Okay, and then in addition to that, there would be contracted services. Again, we would have zero obligation as a city.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
now I might just deviate a little bit from where you're going, and that is, what if the city wants to get out? That question gets asked a lot. What if we don't like this after a while? And of course, the city can get out, but the principle that would need to apply for everybody's protection, the folks who stay and the folks who go, is that if commitments have been made on your behalf through the JPA and you voted on them, you can't really leave those stranded costs behind. You have to keep your other members whole. So you can't necessarily walk away free. You may have a contract, for example, for the folks who live here that might be a term contract. You could always sell that energy, or the JPA could sell that energy into the market, but if that wasn't enough to cover the cost, then you would need to keep your other members whole and take care of that. So it's not just.
So there is an obligation then it's not a zero
Well,
obligation.
yeah, if the JPA provided a service to you that benefited your customers and you decided you no longer wanted it, it wouldn't be fair to leave it to the others behind. So so that's why you have to deliberate on the decisions, and you have to make sure,
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to understand that. So, and then the contracted services would be the billing. It would include billing. So there would be a full-on contract for billing.
Well, not full on. The way the bulk of the billing services are still done by SCE, and the payment that's made for that, and the PUC still has oversight over their operations. And so what we argue, and the reason we deal with the PUC a lot, is to make sure that the departing customers that come to a CCA don't pay more than their customers that are left behind. Otherwise, you get cross-subsidization, and they could end up harming the CCA customers. So what we have to make sure of is we will pay for the services, but we'll pay the same amount as their customers pay. That way there's no rate advantage, there's no inequities, and so the bulk of the billing is still done by them. They read the meters, they generate the bills, they send the usage to LACE. LACE then applies their rate to it, sends it back to Edison. This is all done electronically. It sounds sort of archaic, but it actually happens almost instantaneously. Then it goes back to them. It goes onto their bill along with the payment for the distribution system and all the other stuff that Edison charges cover, and then goes to the customer. So our portion is probably 10% of the total cost of generating the bill.
Okay. And then the executive director would be, that would be an additional cost. And I think we've covered that already about, the obligation and making the JPA whole, should we decide to opt out at some point.
Yes, uh-huh.
So when I look at the savings, and I looked at your best case scenario of, the first one in the slides, you presented 3 scenarios. The first scenario, there was about $1 difference, let's say. And let's say there are about 20,000 households in the city of Baldwin Park. So each one of those households will save about $1 a month. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, if the customer pays probably more likely a $50 bill to Edison today, then they would save, what, $250
Okay.
per month?
Okay. And so then you would basically look at that savings, multiply it obviously by the number of households here, and
Right.
that annual savings then goes back into the JPA, or does it go to the resident, or does it come to the city?
It accrues to be quite honest, I've seen JPAs done different ways. The way we're proposing to do it is that those go to savings to the customer directly every month in the form of lower bills. Okay? Now, I will tell you, some JPAs have, there's one up north that actually charges the same during the year as the investor-owned utility charged, and they accumulate that, and at the end of the year, they pay, quote, a dividend. So they give it back to the customers either as a credit on their bill, so they get a half a month free service. That, again, is something the board can decide. But as to what to do with those savings, the JPA is nonprofit, and the sale of energy is to your residents, so the JPA doesn't really stand alone and do anything. Those benefits all have to accrue back in some form to the customers.
Right, and that was my question, because we had somebody speaking to another JPA that's been formed and talking about those revenues coming to the city and perhaps being used for other purposes. So what you're saying is the board will determine where those revenues will go.
Yes.
But
because they determine the rates, they start with the rates. You can.
Now, do you think it's a possible scenario that board would determine that the savings would go back to the cities, the member cities?
That's really up to the board.
It's really up to. So it's still up in the air. It hasn't been decided.
Yeah. No. All we know is the rates that are charged today should, based on all the experience of other JPAs and our analysis, generate savings.
Okay.
Now, what happens to those savings is really an issue for the board.
We have to decide. Okay. Now, let me understand a little bit more about the current structure.
Okay.
So SCE, in essence, is a wholesaler as well as a distributor today.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're looking at with the CCEA and the Community Choice Energy options is SCE would be the wholesaler, but now this JPA will be the distributor and will then capture whatever revenues. Is that correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Not exactly.
Okay.
The energy portion of the bill that Edison delivers to the customers today, they go into the marketplace because they don't have their own generating plants. In the old days, they had their own generating plants and they sold the energy out of their plants. And because the shareholders had built those plants, they got a return on that investment. Well, today that doesn't happen. So it's really a pass-through as far as they're concerned. And so they buy the energy and deliver it through their facilities, the transmission distribution facilities, the transformers, substations, and their current customers pay for that. And so the LACE customers will pay the same amount of money to use those same facilities as the Edison customers pay. But the energy that comes through is provided by LACE into the Edison system, and we pay a toll for them to deliver it to the customers, and we pay them to read the meters and send the bills out, et cetera. So they're pretty much indifferent in this whole thing. I will tell you that their business model is changing. They're going to end up being really in the wires business, which isn't just happening in California. I can't say that they like that. I wouldn't tell you that they're resounding supporters of ours, but they certainly, by law, quite frankly, can't obstruct us from doing what the law says we can do, just to be very candid about it.
And how many cities have opted in currently?
Well, we started our effort 2 months ago, and as you know, it takes a long time sometimes to get things through city councils with hearings and
Yeah,
readings and
it does take
resolutions and all
time,
that.
yeah.
Currently, we only have 3 participants in the JPA: the county, Rolling Hills Estates, and South Pasadena. We expect to start picking them up over the course of the next 6 months, such that we're, as a staff, sort of guessing that at the end of that 6-month period, we might have 15 members.
Okay.
Now, there are 80 cities who are eligible in the county to join the JPA. We could have a lot more than that over the course of time. We don't know. It's anybody's guess.
Okay, and then here's my last question. How does the county program differ from the Lancaster model? And I know there's the South Bay cities, but that's kind of a little bit...
Well, I try not to pass judgment on... I will say this. Of those two, and Lancaster, of course, the one that's matured the most, because they are actually providing energy. South Bay is still in the formative stages, and so the way I would describe it is they're all three based on different business models. That doesn't mean one's good, one's bad, one's better than the other. They all have pluses and minuses, I would guess. Ours is really you join as a full participant. You help make the decisions and set the policy and move forward. I would characterize the Lancaster model, and it's good for some. They're picking up members also. I'm not saying anything disparaging about them, but they're more of a services model. You actually go in and you buy services from the JPA rather than being a full participant as you would be in our JPA. To me, that's the difference. And some cities like it one way and some like it the other. I wouldn't say anything negative about them.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you answering all those questions.
All right.
Yes, Councilor Cruz Blanca.
I think that if we just look at it, like we have our own water department here for many, many years. And it's set up the same way where it has its own staff, it has everything. And I think if we look at it that way, that is exactly the role model that we're going to have to, more or less. I'm not saying it has to be exact, but that's what we have to look at in order to set this up and to understand it. It is so new that it's almost like we're starting with a concept from scratch, even though it's been done in other cities, but it may not work in every city. There may be cities that it's too small and it doesn't make a difference. And yes, you're absolutely right. More and more you hear that SCE is going more for maintenance in the fiber optic, especially with a lot of the cannabis industry coming into California, because that's where they understand that they're going to be making their money from a lot of those growers. So thank you very much. I appreciate your explanation. Really, even though there are still parts that are hard to understand,
yes.
But at least we've got some type of a concept of sort of going through the weeds. So thank you.
If I might just say one thing about your analysis with the water department. I used to run the water utility and electric utility in Riverside. The reason you have city staff in the water department is to take care of the distribution system and the pumping and all of that sort of stuff, the operational aspects. Lace will not do that. We will pay Edison to do that on their own system so that you won't have the staffing at the city level like you do with those systems. They have it, we pay for it, and the key is to make sure that our customers don't pay any more than their own customers pay. That way there's no competitive rate advantage. Okay?
Mayor, I have
All right,
one more.
yes, go ahead.
Well, it's mainly for us, not necessarily for the gentleman. I mean, I have concerns because when we started hearing about these type of models, Lancaster and Pico Rivera, what I heard initially that sparked my interest is savings for the residents. That was like my first even instinct to listen to a company come and present, because I hear, savings for residents and for the city. So now when I hear your model, and like you're saying, it's not that one is better than the other, it's just it depends on people. When I heard your model, I heard you say that the savings have not necessarily been determined yet, and that the board would decide where the savings go because it's fairly new. And so at this point, we don't know where the savings would go. For me, if I'm even going to entertain something like this, I need to know it goes for our residents and the city. Other than that, I think we're just risking getting involved with something fairly new. It could be very successful at some point. However, there's only 3 people participating. And for me, and I've seen it many times with different JPAs, that eventually those savings will end up to going towards salaries of board members and dinners and mixers. And, I've been around long enough to have seen it, because you have to sustain the organization, and there's always meetings to attend to, conferences to have. And so at this point, if I don't see the savings going to our residents or the city, and we have no say-so, and I know what you're saying as a board we would decide, but we're just one vote, and I don't think we can make that determination for, but you can potentially have 20 people joining. And so we only have one vote, and so at this point, I don't see why we would disturb what we have right now if we don't know for sure that the citizens of this community would benefit from us changing. So I would just have to do, for me personally, it's not worth it if I don't know that the savings are going to our community and the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Could I respond to that just quickly? The way the rates that I gave you tonight are set as the rates, and they will generate savings, and currently those savings will go directly to the customers every month. Okay? What I'm saying is that some other boards over the course of their JPA development have decided they all create savings, and it's how you get the savings back. The LACE model says those savings are going to come in the form of lower rates. Even at higher renewable standards, they're still lower than Edison's, and those go back into the pockets of the ratepayers every month.
But I've also been part of other organizations where it starts off low, and then through the course of time, when it becomes a little more seasoned, then they start realizing that there's more cost to the organization, and then you have to hire more people. And I've been part of making decisions, having to raise, let's say, I'm going to call it rate for this conversation, because the JPA needs to sustain, like I said, salaries and meetings and that kind of stuff. So the rates are set for now, but they could potentially change. So once we're in this JPA, then how do we safeguard our residents from having to incur more charges? And they don't have a decision, and we may not, because we're just one vote. 4 other cities may decide they want to, just charge them, extremely high, because they want to make sure that the organization is sustained. Again, I don't see the residents having the benefit the long term. Okay. I think I don't want to give up that ability to set the rates for our residents, and this doesn't seem to be something that I would support. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. At this point, any other council members have any questions? Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
No,
Mayor. I have to agree with Vice Mayor Rubio. I really need to see more of how our residents and our businesses are going to benefit from this in order for me to really jump with both feet forward. It just seems too new to me, and there are so many questions that are unanswered. And yes, we have Lancaster and other cities. Pico Rivera, of course, that's very new at this. But I still don't see how there's any proof, in other words, of how this really works and how it's beneficial to our community. And so I have to say that I am wary right now of making that decision at the cost of our residents and our businesses. So thank you very much for the explanation.
Okay.
Mayor, I just have a quick question. I want to thank you again for spending the time coming out here and exploring this opportunity that I think is a great opportunity for our communities. But under the governance, the way you structured it, would Baldwin Park have an opportunity to make its own rate structure, or do we as a board in this larger scenario of a larger governance board of, say, 20 cities, once the rates are set, is that set for all cities, or is it different?
You could ask for options. Mm-hmm. You could, if you had a particular direction you wanted to go, you could. We have 3 rates now. You could actually argue for a different kind of rate. And remember, the ultimate customer is the one that picks the rate. What you all will do is sort of set what you call the default rate. When the customer comes in, they have to come in at some rate. But before they even and so you could say it's the base rate, or 25% or 50%, or whichever of those 3. Even before the customer receives service the first time, they can opt to another rate. So you're not actually fixing the rate, you're fixing the rate options for them. Okay? And there isn't any reason that if you had a particular rate you wanted to sell to the board, and the board wanted to do that as they go down, they could do that. And then the customers could choose that rate.
For example, the city of Irwindale has a large industrial base, Baldwin Park is more of a, bedroom community.
Right, right.
And Irwindale might say, we want special rates for our industrial customers, and Baldwin Park, who doesn't have that large base of clientele of industrial, has more residential. So I can see where some cities are going to kind of just say, hey, we need rates for our industrials and for our residential. So you're saying that as a board in general, we could bring that up. And
the advantage here is you don't have to argue your case at the PUC. You argue it and discuss it among the board because they have the rate setting authority. They have local control. The commission has nothing to say about it.
Okay, now, just so I understand, and I know it was brought up a little bit about the rate structure, as far as the revenue, where are you looking at? I wasn't understanding, where are you getting the revenue from? Because it sounds like Edison does the billing in general, and then do we get a portion of that or the whole thing?
No, LACE buys the energy and then sells it, buys it wholesale, if you will, sells it retail, and the revenue coming in exceeds the expenses by about 5%, or they're 5% lower than Edison would charge for that very same operation. So that generates savings. And so we pay the same, the billing part, that part is that our customers pay the same as Edison customers. There's no profit or loss there, other than the energy portion, which they don't make a profit on anyway. This is why their shareholders are not going to be hurt. Their ratepayers won't be hurt as long as the cost that we pay and their customers are the same. And that's what we have to assure ourselves of at the PUC.
Okay, now, does it impact, and I'm not sure it would, but if somebody has, customers that have solar panels and aren't really buying a lot of energy, do they stay just the same, paying whatever they're paying? And okay. So their contracts don't change or anything?
The sort of the rule of thumb here is that the customers are not going to have a deterioration of service and availability. In fact, here they get more options at a lower price, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I just want clarification. And only because maybe I didn't understand it, but I know that we're hearing that the rates are set here. But does the board as a body have the ability to change those rates if they want to?
Yes.
So see, that to me is the concern, that it depends who's on the board. It could go anyway. It could, and I know that most people on the board would be thinking in the best interest of their community, but each community is so different. And just like Councilmember Pacheco said, someone like Irwindale would be fighting for a totally different thing and if they're more vocal and perhaps have more friends on the board, then they'll get what they want and our city wouldn't get what we want. So there's always that concern of mine that it depends on the board and it's not always a guarantee.
Which is why you might want to look at various rate options. We now have three. The lowest renewable rate is the cheapest rate, so customers who want to save money and don't really care about renewables, they pick that one. Folks who want to be more environmentally conscious, they would pick the other one. It's their choice because not all customers want the same thing. And there's nothing magical about the three categories that were picked now. And the board takes that up later on, they could decide to do 5. Who knows? It's up to the board. But I want you to think, if you've got an argument to make, it doesn't mean that it's so a zero-sum game where if they pick it, you're out. You could be in and they could be in if the need was there.
Of course. And I want to thank you, too. I know that this is a well put together presentation and you've answered all our questions. And we are here to make sure that we do right by our community. So thank you so much for answering all the questions.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Good evening. Well, first of all, this kind of reminds me of back in the 70s when there were 70s or early 80s when they had the breakup of Pacific Bell. And everyone was panicking. Well, what's it going to be like? All these different phone companies that were produced out of that particular. It kind of reminds me in that type of a way. So the difference between you and the Lancaster group is that Lancaster allows all the members as actually voters, whereas the county is just explain that to me.
No, well, and I'm not an expert on Lancaster, but I believe in LACE, everybody is on the board, and all the policy decisions and staffing decisions and salary decisions are all made by the board on an equal voting basis. Okay, and everybody gets the same services and so forth. I don't believe in the Lancaster model you're a fully participating member of the board. I think you're buying services that they have developed and trying to gain economies of scale by them selling those services to more people. to me, that's not really a full participatory joint action agency. I think that's really the difference. And for some, it's okay. I'm not disparaging their system at all. I'm just trying to explain what I think the differences are.
Now, how many cities have you already picked up as far as creating this JPA?
Well, we've been going about 2 or 3 weeks now in terms of getting around, and we obviously can't cover 80 cities in any short period of time. We probably have given presentations to 15 cities maybe. We've got 4 pretty firm. We've got about another 3 or 4 or 5 that are close, that are sort of looking at their processes, and a lot of councils want to be deliberative about it, and we understand, and they want to take it and study it some more and come back, and we're more than happy to work with folks in that regard. So it's hard to say where we're going to end up. I'm fairly certain we aren't going to end up with 80, and I'm not so sure 80 would be a functioning entity in the first place with 80 members on a board. So I think we'd be satisfied if we had maybe 20 members, that kind of thing, in the next 12 months.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, first of all. And again, I'll reiterate what I stated from the introduction. It's similar to PAC-BAL breaking up in the 70s, and of course, everyone started saying, I don't want to go with these smaller companies, but yet AT&T and everyone else, PAC-BAL, and everything was born out of that. But just thank you.
Well, we're certainly available as you deliberate going down the line, and we hope you make the decision to join your other cities in L.A. County, and we'll help you any way we can.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
that. Yes, thank you. All right. So at this point, I believe we do. Do we have a secondary? One is coming up. You could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good evening. Michael Chapin here, Connor Energy. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City staff, and thank you, Bill, from LACE as well for the presentation. Tonight, I am joined here with Barbara Boswell from the California Choice Energy Authority. She's the Executive Director as well, so I just wanted to share that if we have questions, and this study session here is I believe a follow-up to a couple presentations we've made to kind of share with you some of the work that we've done with the City of Lancaster. Maybe I'll start by simply offering up any questions if there's from the City Council on the difference of models, and maybe we can start there as well.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Ricardo Pacheco. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the governing board, how it's made up and how decisions are made in that sense?
Absolutely. I certainly can. If you'd like to invite Barbara Boswell here, and she's happy to share that with you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'm Barbara Boswell, and I'm representing California Choice Energy Authority. A little bit about my background. I was Lancaster's finance director during the time that they were evaluating their community choice aggregation program and led their implementation and acted as the executive director as well as the finance director for their first year of operations. I've since retired and now am providing consulting services for cities for CCA implementations and also working with CCEA. The difference between CCEA and the Los Angeles LACE model is that with California Choice Energy Authority, Baldwin Park would be their own community choice aggregation program. You would be the governing board of your CCA. And Mr. Carnahan was correct. You are basically contracting for services for back office, but there is no need to have a member on the board of CCA because they don't make any decisions with relation to your program. You make all of your decisions. You set your rates. You decide the amount of savings. You make policy decisions with regards to renewable energy above and beyond the required amount. You decide how the revenues that are generated by your program are set. You can implement economic development incentive rates, for example. You have that control. So you are the governing board. This council would be the governing board.
All right. Anyone else?
Okay, just another question. So then, in your model, how are the rates broken down? I mean, it seems like it's a shared revenue with the LACCA. And to your model, how does that work? Is there a portion that goes to the city, or it's all under your jurisdiction or group?
Baldwin Park, so it would be Baldwin Park CCA, or however you would decide to brand yourself or name your program. You would set your own rates. Then CCEA's support would help you to implement your program. So CCEA does not have any staff. They contract for services. So they pay they pay for those contract services, but there's no pension liability or ongoing liability related to that because they don't have staff. They don't have full-time staff. And they provide support services for you to run your program. They assist with the power procurement, regulatory compliance, regulatory advocacy, provide the data manager, the back office operations, all of those different activities that a CCA needs to have to function. They provide those support services to help with that. And that's what we're doing with Pico Rivera.
Thank you.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Cruz-Baca.
What is the cost for those services?
So the cost would be determined, should Baldwin Park decide to join, then the costs are shared. And so then the allocation methodology is based on the percent of usage or electricity usage your community has as compared to the other communities that are participating. And those costs would be determined as part of the technical study in the beginning. The first step is to engage to have a technical study with a financial pro forma developed, and that financial pro forma would determine or be able to tell you then, based on your load, because we'd have to get that from Southern California Edison, what your share of those costs would be. I can tell you for Pico Rivera, those costs are about $500,000 a year, I think.
So your agency would charge $500,000?
So it would be a share of it. So Pico Rivera's costs would go down if another city joins, because you're sharing in the same pot, if you will. And so I was, for a frame of reference, I was saying what their costs are. But that's, they're contracting for services as opposed to hiring staff to run it themselves.
So it would be based off of a percentage. Let's say let's use $500,000. So if Baldwin Park were to join forces with Pico Rivera, that means that whatever, based on what our usage is, that would be the percentage that we would have to pay of the $500,000?
The $500,000 is Pico Rivera's share of the entire budget, if you will, of the CCEA.
Right.
So the budget is actually larger, but so it then would be allocated, instead of being allocated amongst 3 cities. Currently we have Lancaster, Pico Rivera, and San Jacinto, and then we have several other cities that are in this first phase of having the technical study done. They have not yet executed the documents to actually join, but depending on the size, number of cities or number of associate members, the costs are then shared based on the electricity load of the member cities.
Okay, so let me, because I thought that's what I had asked. Let's work on $500,000 that Pico Rivera has just right now. Let's just use $500,000, whether it's correct or not. If other cities opt in, how would you know what a percentage they're going to pay of that $500,000? Is it based on the usage or the wattage or whatever of the electricity, or is it based on everybody sharing a quarter or a third, depending on how many cities are in that group?
It's based on the electricity usage of your community.
Okay.
So if you're a smaller community and your electricity usage is less than Pico Rivera or Lancaster, then you would have a smaller share, proportional share based on your proportion of the overall electricity.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else wishing?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Monica Garcia.
So as far as the usage, we would be billed based on usage. Now, in the JPA, would you build capacity to account for our usage? Or is it already, do you think, existing? You would have to build on that, on your, I guess you mentioned that you don't anticipate hiring full-time staff, so I'm thinking this is going to be a contracted service. So would you expand, the services, the capacity as needed to account for each city's usage?
If I am interpreting your question properly, what you're saying is, could those contracts get bigger because there would need to be more consultants needed to service more cities? Right. And I would say Yes, I would say that there is some of that because there would be more cities that would be servicing, but there's also some economies of scale in terms of things, for example, regulatory advocacy. So, one of the activities that's important in managing and running a CCA is keeping involved with what the activities at the PUC with Southern California Edison and their rate filings. Well, generally, all of the cities within Southern California Edison territory would share the same concerns and the same activities. CCEA has one staff person or has one consultant, one person who goes to the PUC to provides testimony and that sort of thing. It still would be one person, but instead being shared amongst all of the members.
I mean, I understand that there still are economies of scale that are built in. But yeah, my question was related to, okay, so now we have additional usage, and so I would imagine that staff would grow, the capacity so that they can now support our community. And the same question that I asked of the county, if we wanted to opt out of that JPA in the future, what would we be liable for? What would we be on the hook for?
Yeah, if you were to choose to leave CCEA down the road, similar to what Mr. Carnahan was saying, with regards to power that had been procured, you would be responsible for then taking those contracts with you. Mm-hmm. And we would assume that you chose to leave because you wanted to run it on your own, and then those contracts would become your responsibility, and it would be specific to only your community.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
I guess just to be fair, I asked the county how you would differ from the other option that we're looking at. So I guess I will ask you the same question. How do you differ from?
I would characterize the difference as being in terms of the governance structure and the decision making, as opposed to being one vote on a board of however many cities decide to join LACE. You would be the full decision-making body. The revenues would be your revenues. It's the water agency or water department was brought up. This would be a department within the city. You would be responsible for setting the rates. You would make the policy decisions in terms of programs that you would offer. You would make decisions in terms of the use of the revenues. It would be an enterprise fund, very similar to your water agency. It would be exactly that same way.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor. Yes, Councilman Cruz Baca.
So let me get this correct. We would have to pay the legal fees for putting together everything, and we would also have to supply the staff that's going to be able to regulate all of this, or to, in other words, see what's going on with all of this. So we have to supply all of this, either hire people or bring them into the city part-time. Is that what you're saying, that right now when you said about the contract, that we're responsible for the contract, so that means we're responsible for the legal fees, correct?
With regards to the question of if you chose to leave CCA in the future, you would be responsible for the energy contracts that had been entered into on behalf of your customers. In terms of other staff, you wouldn't be necessarily hiring staff, or you wouldn't need to hire staff because you'd be contracting for the services to be provided by through CCEA, and so you wouldn't need to hire staff.
We would need to hire staff, correct?
You would not. No,
we would
you
not.
Would not. Right.
So who pays for the staff that you would be supplying or overseeing?
Yeah, that was the charge that we had talked about earlier. That I said Pico Rivera's charge service fee is $500,000. That's what that fee pays for. Is for the consulting staff that performs the services on behalf of Baldwin Park.
So when
the
this
participating members.
When this starts to grow, because right now you have Pico Rivera, correct, and Lancaster?
And San Jacinto.
Okay, when this starts to grow, does that mean you will be bringing more staff in to be able to handle all the other cities that you will, if you acquire them?
There are some activities where there wouldn't need to be, and I had mentioned the regulatory. There are, each city pays for things such as part of that fee includes the billing services that were mentioned earlier that are being performed on your behalf. That service, that would be provided by another third party. I don't know that they'd have to hire additional staff to provide it. They may not. The company that we use is Calpine, and they do all of the billing services for all of the current operating CCAs in California. They have a pretty good structure behind them. But there'd be some services that there would not necessarily need to be additional staff hired, because whether you're buying, testifying on behalf of one city or testifying on behalf of 6 cities, it's still one person.
Well, I'm confused now, because from what I understand, Edison would still be billing the customers, and we would only see, let's just say, Baldwin Park, community, energy, whatever. But now you're telling me that you will have staff that will be doing the billing, so I'm confused.
They would not do the billing, they would calculate the bill. That would then be electronically sent to Edison to bill on your behalf.
But wouldn't that be something that Edison would be doing as part of their...
Edison doesn't calculate the bills on behalf of the CCAs, and Mr. Carnahan, it's similar to, or it's the same as LA County, in that you receive the meter read data from Edison electronically, then your bills are calculated based on the rates that you set for your customer base, and then electronically it's sent back to Southern California Edison for billing. Then they collect the money, and then on a daily basis they electronically send the money they've collected on behalf of the CCA.
Okay. I'm still confused, but thank you very much for the explanation.
Councilman Ricardo Pacheco.
So, Michael, kind of explain how does the revenue work then? It sounds like, are we paying as a city, or are we getting revenue from somehow through the rates that's being charged, or how does that work?
Sure. So from the energy generation sales that Edison, again, this is something that goes on every day. Right now, Edison collects and bills your customers, and they keep 100% of the revenue. The only change that would happen is, again, that one line item, as Councilmember Baca had mentioned, that would then read Baldwin Park CCA, or energy program. Those monies that are affiliated with that particular line item charge would then get redirected and deposited to the city on a daily basis through the JPA, through the CCA that you've established. So again, it's the same billing structure. It would still be taking place. It's just the generation charge, those revenues would basically flow back to the city, and the city would have the authority and the discretion to provide energy programs and whatnot that the city decides and has direction to do. That's
the
main difference.
The revenue that comes from the generation charge would go to Baldwin Park, and then that money is what we would pay the CCA with?
Right. So the net revenues, as we do the pro forma, essentially we'll break it down and tell you this is your gross revenue line item charge. And again, as I'd mentioned before, for the past 2 years, the California Choice Energy Program successfully has been running the Lancaster Choice Energy Program. That's about a $40 million fund for that city's program, with about 10% of that being about their net revenues that they have available for their energy programs. So again, depending on how your technical study looks for this city, once that's available, we can then go through what your program will look like and what your net revenues would be. And we can also calculate, based on your energy load, again, let's say that you're that 4th city in this California Choice Energy Authority. It's going to be California Choice Energy supporting Lancaster, Pico Rivera, San Jacinto, and say Baldwin Park. With that 4th city in the mix, you would then be sharing your share of, based on energy load for every one of those cities, your pro rata share of energy service costs. So you would then be, if every city were exactly the same size, it'd be 1/4 of the energy share of those costs. And that's how we would break down. And we'd share that in your technical study to show you, if you established your CCA, this is your share of the cost. If we were to contract out for services with CCEA, and this is what your net revenues would look like with 100% governance by the city of Baldwin Park.
Okay, so let me understand. So the charge that would come in through the rates that would go to Baldwin Park, we would then pay for the services that would run the CCA. And it wouldn't be staff; it would be professional consultants that understand that industry that would be running it day to day, buying power and making sure we're getting the rates that we asked for. Is that?
That's correct.
The way you see it?
It'd be at your direction. But yes, we would break down and share with you your net revenues after paying for the costs of the consultants and contract service staff that'd be running the CCA on your behalf through the California Choice Energy Authority.
Okay. Now, Lancaster, about how much is their net revenue once they're done paying?
About 10% of their.
I mean, more or less what?
More or less. It can change, but yes, roughly it's about 10%.
Because you said they bring in about $40 million a year, so they would have about $4 million.
Roughly.
Is that after costs that they pay for?
That's their net.
Okay, and then what can they use that money for? You said different programs for their city, or?
As of today, I believe they've got a clean energy, natural gas clean energy buses, charging stations throughout the city, facilities. I know they've invested in solar programs. So again, it's a number of different energy programs Lancaster has done and pioneered quite a number of them, all helping being funded through the CCA over the past 2 years.
Okay, so since the city, the board of directors for that CCA would just be the 5 members here?
Yes.
Okay.
The city council would govern 100% of the direction and decisions for the Baldwin Park CCA that's established here at the city level.
All right. Can we establish our own rates then, like special rates for, industrial users, residential?
That is correct.
Now that we have cannabis, or possibly do have it coming up, we can have rates for those types of users or heavy users. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Alrighty. Anyone else? Yes.
Did you originally you had said when you were at the council meeting that it was $63,000 for you to do the analysis or the? Is that the same fee that you charged Lancaster?
That's the exact same fee charged to Pico Rivera and San Jacinto.
I'm a little hesitant because, as council members, we make decisions all the time, but I really do not believe that we're in the utility business to be able to making decisions based on our community and our businesses as to what kind of rates we're going to be charging. We have a problem even deciding on the trash company, let alone a utility company that's so huge that our families really rely on and our businesses. So I'm still a little wary, like I said before, about those decisions and one more decision that's going to be put on us. But thank you very much. I know you had to come back today, but thank you very much for the presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Any further questions? If not, at this point, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All righty, so we will now go into the, did you want to make my comments? No. Okay, all right. So at this point, we're going to go in the presentation regarding the community energy, the project update presentation by Walbert Development, Inc. So at this point, we have the developer or what? Okay, all right. So who's going to head this for us right now?
Staff or what? They're going to give you a presentation.
All righty. Oh, yeah, I see him back there. Come on up. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Lozano.
Good evening.
Members of the City Council. My name is Matt Waken, Walburn Development. Here tonight to give you an update on the status of both the main development and disposition agreement and the Bedello development and disposition agreement. I've prepared a PowerPoint to update you on the status of the due diligence of the design of the projects. I'd let you know where we're at with site plan iterations and density on both projects. So if I can, I'm going to start with a quick update on the due diligence. But just to refresh you all on this, and I believe...
one moment. You know what? Can we... the mic sounds like it's far or something. Why don't you sit right up here?
Where do you want me to sit?
That counter right there.
Okay,
Use that
sure.
speaker. I think it'd be better.
Yeah, if something's not right,
Yes.
it sounds ordinary.
There you go. That'll probably be better for you. Yes, yes.
Anyone?
Just got it from my shop. Going here?
Robert, compared to the private sector.
Okay, that's right. You just got demoted.
Mr. Mayor, is this better?
Probably right.
Yes, there you go.
Is better? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just to refresh everybody on this, the development disposition agreements were approved December 2nd, 2016. After that, it took some time to negotiate both development and disposition agreements, and we also had to conduct an appraisal on both the main site and the Badillo site. Subsequent to that, the date that escrow due diligence was actually open and due diligence began was April 7th, and that ran for a period of 90 days to July 7th. At that point in time, we requested an extension to that due diligence, and were granted that by the CEO, a 90-day extension period, of which we're 30 days into. That's important relative to the timing of the project, because there was a statement earlier that the project was 2 years delayed. That's not the case. We're actually completed with almost all of our due diligence, subject to comments and direction from the council tonight, primarily on the main site plans and designs. So that's where we're at. I want to jump to slide 9. So I can go over details on progress, which was applicable to both projects. So during the due diligence, we've conducted all of our normal investigations beyond site design, which basically encompasses the following on both Badillo and Maine. We've completed the ALTA survey on both properties. We've completed a Phase 1 environmental assessment on both properties. Both Phase 1 environmental assessments recommended a Phase 2 to be completed because of a plume that sits throughout this area of the San Gabriel Valley, and it runs into El Monte and South El Monte, and I'm sure council's familiar with that plume. We've completed all the environmental assessments. We've completed the review of the title and transmitted the title exceptions to the city. We've completed our market study. We've prepared the acoustical analysis. We've obtained a will-serve letter from the Valley County Water District, also a will-serve letter from the city of Baldwin Park. We have had our consultant review the dry utilities, completed that study, capacity, everything meets our needs. We've had an independent cost estimator evaluate the construction costs. We have replaced the original architect. We switched the architects from SUMA to a firm out of Irvine, KTGY, who we use quite frequently, and they were more adept at understanding the downtown transit-oriented specific plan, so we did make that change. And both DDAs, as I stated, were extended for a period of 90 days to complete the due diligence. And we've determined that the state affordable mandate doesn't apply to these sites. So I think that's important. What I want to focus on tonight primarily, the Badillo site pretty much speaks for itself. It's been relatively easy in its design. We had an issue with an easement that runs through that property, and we had to modify our design to meet the requirements of the downtown transit-oriented development specific plan. So that site plan has changed slightly from what was originally presented to you, but aside from that and showing that to you, the Badillo site, for all intents and purposes, our due diligence is complete, and we want to show you an update on that, and we are very close to wrapping that one up. The main site has proved to be much more challenging, and I'll go into the reasons of why, and it's required some redesign, and I think they'll be very clear to you all. So at that point, I'll pull back. So if we start with the fact sheet, the original development and disposition agreement called for the development of 26 market rate townhomes. The product was identified as 3 stories in height, ranging in feet from 1,150 to 1,600 square feet. All the units would have a 2-car attached garage and 14 open guest stalls. Our original plan didn't meet all of the requirements of the downtown transit-oriented development specific plan. So we had to make some modifications to that. And subsequently, we also, in an attempt to achieve a certain density, pushed the envelopes of that site plan to encompass some parcels that we encountered in the alleyway that runs below. The parcels that are actually, the site's very difficult in its configuration. I have an exhibit to show you, and some more information on that. Now, as it pertains to the surrounding property owners, this is where it got sort of tricky. One of the surrounding property owners that has a property that infringes on a corner of it as right-of-way space is the school district. School district representative came up and spoke tonight during the open session. She's absolutely correct. We have no agreement in place for any vacation of the property from the school district. What we have had was 2 very substantive, what I felt, and my partners at Brandywine felt, were very substantive meetings with them in which we discussed the potential vacation of that triangular piece in exchange for us constructing a sign which would be used by the school district, and we potentially discussed it being used by the city of Baldwin Park as well. A monument sign that would be a reed sign that the school district would post whatever they wanted as far as events and potentially city participating on that as well. And we had talked about the vacation of that property being given in exchange for us putting up that sign. And during our discussions, they seemed amenable to it, but we don't have anything in writing. And in fact, in subsequent design iterations, we've just determined that we want to stay away from everybody around us that has an impact potentially on the project and focus on the area that we have control over. So that's as it pertains to the school district site. So in discussion with the new plans that we have for Maine, we have 2 new site plans to show you tonight, and we're asking you for your comments on them and direction. The first site plan you're going to see calls for the project to maintain 26 units as was originally proposed, but rather than 26 for sale individual townhome units, we've got the same project height of 3 stories, but we've got 26 market rate rental units. To get the density we wanted to achieve, and when I show you the exhibits, you'll see what I'm talking about, we had to redesign the project at a market rate rental project to try to achieve that density, and we ended up with 26, combination of 1 and 2 bedrooms, ranging from 800 square feet to almost 1,100 square feet, and I'll show you that plan. This plan complies with all of the setback and parking requirements of the downtown specific plan, as does the other plan that we had, which is a alternative that we have that allows us to continue with a for sale 3-story row townhouse project, identical to the product we envisioned in our first iteration, but the density is 14 units. So to summarize it, and I'll get to the reasoning behind the changes as I go to the next plan. The reasoning behind it was originally we had 26 for sale 3-story townhomes. The plans that are revised to show you tonight are a continuation of the density of 26 units, but at a market rate rental project, or maintaining a for sale product, 3-story row towns, and we would lose 12 units and be at a density of 14 units. I'm going to talk to you about Keen Taco, and I'm talking about David Bazzolto, who's one of the property owners these are both property owners along Ramona, and our meetings and conversations with them both had an impact on the designs that you're going to see tonight and our original design. So if you look at this plan before you, this was our original plan, which was attached as a portion of the DDA. It had 26 units, and this plan contemplated a number of things occurring. A, we were pushing the setback envelope as far as what was allowed by the downtown specific plan. We were pushing the parking envelope a little bit to get density up there. And the last thing that we were doing, which is really critical, is we were counting on being able to have some cooperation from some surrounding property owners. The one property owner, which I've discussed already, is the school district. This plan infringes on the small triangular piece that they have. The other piece that you'll see is if you look at the far left-hand side, about the middle of the plan, do it. There we go. This area right here, this small triangular piece is owned by Keen Taco, and that piece goes in to the alleyway. What we needed was an easement over that property from Keen Taco. The same situation occurs in this area right here with the owner of the building on the corner of Ramona, and there are several tenants in that building. His property protrudes out into the alleyway as well. So what we needed was an easement over both of those properties, or vacation, in exchange for us improving that alleyway and adding some parking back on it. And we pushed the development to that angle, assuming we could get some cooperation from them. And although neither property owner is not in support of the project or opposes the project. They're not interested in, King Taco particularly isn't interested in losing any parking or relocating their trash dumpster that they have there. So both of them declined to cooperate with this plan. So as a result, we decided that we wanted to work within the confines of the land that was truly controlled by the city of Baldwin Park and as contemplated by the development and disposition agreement. And we wanted to be able to have a self-contained project that worked within the confines of that without having to seek any approvals or any vacations or any easements from any surrounding property owners. So we could strictly deal with city council and the city directly, and this is what we came up with. So this area shows, this exhibit shows the segregated development area, and this is really critical. If you look at this area in blue, we were utilizing all of this area in blue, not for development of our units. We were staying, for the most part, within the green area, except for the building that we had out here that went into the school district parcel. But we were utilizing this area, and we were determining that we were going to improve this alleyway, add some parking back along it, and we were going into the area of King Taco and the area of the insurance person that owns this area parcel right here. So when we took the segregated development area of what we really have with the city parcel, we have to use as a developable area what is shown there in green. So we're now working within the confines of the area in green, which was really significant to the project, because what that left us was we went from 1.35 acres to 0.78 acres. So that was significant. We're basically at 3/4 of an acre as far as our development area is concerned. So this plan shows revised main site plan option number 1. And this plan, again, respects all of the exterior boundaries that we need to respect as far as King Taco is concerned, as far as the insurance agent's concerned, as far as the school district is concerned. We don't need to ask for anything from any of these parties and any of these adjacent property owners anymore. We're staying within the confines of the 0.78 acres that we have. We've designed this project in conformance with the downtown specific plan, TOD, that was approved by City Council, and it meets the requirements as far as setbacks, parking, and everything. And this is 26 market rate multifamily units, 3-story stacked flats. These are rentals. This project contemplates the exact same project area of 0.78 acres, not requiring anything from the adjacent property owners and conforming with the downtown transit-oriented development specific plan. And this contemplates the same product type as was approved back in December, which is the 3-story row townhomes for sale. And this is a density of 14 units total. So at this point, this really gives you an overview. As far as the due diligence for Maine, again, we've completed it. The only thing we're going to have to do is go back based on the density that the council directs me and the site plan that the council directs us to proceed with. We're going to have to re-engage the appraiser to update the appraisal. That's going to be a requirement that the city's going to have to do. But otherwise, we feel that we will be able to approve the due diligence and proceed right away. And the good news about the timing, and a lot's been talked about timing, is both this project and the Badilla project both are, again, in 100% conformance with the downtown transit-oriented development specific plan. So this project will be able to move straight forward to our working drawings, and we'll be able to submit this and proceed quickly with staff review of the documents, which we are prepared to do. So I guess the question I have for you, Mayor Lozano, do you want me to proceed to Badilla and go through that and then come back for comments and questions, or do we want to...
Okay, let's go through it. Is that okay with everyone? Let's just kind of go through it and go through it all the way.
Sure. I'm sorry.
What's the time schedule?
Badilla's going to be quick, but
okay.
My partner, Brandywine Holmes, who's building the project, really has a comment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Discussing right now? We discuss Ramona first, and then go on to Badilla.
Right. Can you finish off Ramona first?
Maine first is what I'm trying to bring, Maine and Ramona, and then go on to Badilla, because otherwise it's...
That makes sense.
I know Alex wants to make a comment, but I'm done with the main presentation at this point in time, and I'm open to questions. So,
And Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Alex Hernandez, President of Brandywine Homes Partners on this development. And I just wanted to add a couple items that I think it's important for you to know as we looked at the various options here. In highlighting the circulation, maybe Matt, you can kind of highlight that circular route. Matt has mentioned that we are maintaining the access on the left side to the King Tacos parking area. So they're being preserved. Their area is not being touched. They have full access there. On the west, we are maintaining the access to the Allstate parking lot. His area is being maintained. He's not being touched at all. Now, the other circular loop that goes around, that's providing access to all those businesses that have back parking. So their parking is still being accessible. We're providing that as well to them. The other important thing to note is on the very east end of the site plan, you'll notice we no longer have a building there. That building, we've now designated that kind of as a pocket park that we can improve. It's very small, you can see there. We're also calling out what we called out what was to be the sign that we talked about with the school district as a potential joint use sign. This was one option where we had laid out that sign saying that it could go there. We'd create a pocket park there in the corner. There'd be no buildings there. We could put, some furniture and things of that nature, whatever the city would like. So I just wanted to add that additional items to what Matt already presented, and we're available both to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I have some comments. First of all, you said that King Taco and the other business basically declined to participate because they didn't want to lose any parking. And, I hope that we're seeing that they're going to lose parking regardless, because whether they're rentals or for sale homes, they're going to be spilling over to their property, their rentals, and their space. Clearly, they're going to be encapsulated. Their goal for their business is to expand and thrive. And what we're doing is taking up spaces. I very much doubt it if they're not going to be using our parking spaces, King Taco and all the businesses there. That's number one. But number two, you're saying that you've completed the DDA. Quite frankly, let's be realistic. This is completely a totally different project that you guys are proposing. This is starting from scratch. This has nothing to do with the DDA we approved back in December. This is a completely different structure. Now they're for rent. The space has been diminished. Just everything is different. So I don't see us moving forward with this project and trying to call it and say it's the same one as last time. To me, we're starting over. This is a brand new project. When you came to us, you said it was going to be, these beautiful townhomes that were going to have, walkable areas, and it was going to bring people and businesses. But what I'm seeing is this small project that's not going to benefit all the businesses that are around there. In particular, like someone just shared right now that they want to invest in a restaurant in that area. I think that we're diminishing the ability for these businesses to expand and really be seen because we're blocking them in. And you're saying that you're going to leave the alley alone. Well, you should, because that's where the trucks go in and out to deliver to these businesses. That should be there to begin with. I can't even imagine blocking that off and the businesses not having access to deliver their goods. Well, that's one. So I don't know how we're going to proceed because this is not the same DDA. This is one project that died because it didn't comply with what we were originally told. So now we're moving into a second DDA. So I really don't want to call it this is the same project. Let's be real. This is a completely different project. And we're going from a 3-acre park plaza that would boost the economy, that would boost the aesthetics of the city, to a 0.78, I think, little project. That wasn't the intent to begin with. The intent was to bring traffic and people from outside to shop in our community. There's no way we're going to bring people outside of this community to shop because we create those few 26 or 14 units. Once again, the whole entire purpose of the specific plan was to figure out how do we make our community beautiful, number one, and number two, how do we help our downtown thrive? That will kill the ability to move forward. And I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about in the next 5-10 years to expand on businesses and expand on our city and our community, because we talked about that being the staple, the hub of our city, especially because it's in front of City Hall. I can't imagine coming out to some apartments or coming out to where it's crowded with people parking all over the place. So I think this is a new project, and it should be treated as such. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Cruz-Baca.
First of all, you mentioned an appraisal, but I've never seen the appraisal. And I remember that the property at the Urban X was going for $1.5 million, and you had one time said that you were going to be purchasing that particular property at $800,000. I've never seen the appraisal. Up to this day now, I've never seen, we were never privy to what the appraisals were. I was still waiting to see what was happening with the appraisals, number one. I also feel that the fact that you seem so nonchalant about not considering what King Taco or the other business have to say about their parking situation or about not wanting to give you access to that easement is also, to me, that's not having any regard for our businesses and our community here. It seems you're going to go ahead with your project regardless of what these businesses that have been here a long time and have really been very good to our community. They really have. And for you to give it no regard at all and just say, well, you know what, we're going to disregard that and we're going ahead whether they like it or not. Those weren't your exact words, but that's exactly what you, excuse me, I'm not done. That's exactly what I perceived it as, you saying, well, we don't care if King Taco says doesn't want to give us access, and we don't care about that other business. We don't care. We've waved in front of the school district a sign. Have you ever checked to see if they can have a sign there? I spoke to the superintendent today. He was not aware that Baldwin Park is just about getting ready in September, I believe. Manny, you can tell me, to bring in some new digital signs to the city. Now, how are you going to put a digital sign there if a few feet away we're having our own digital sign that will incorporate everything that's going on in the city? I mean, you're throwing on these ideas of things that meetings you had without consulting, unless you consulted other council members. You never spoke to me about all of these changes, and I spoke to some of the school board members today, and I'm going to tell you that they said that it was only a discussion, that they knew nothing else, that this was finalized. So I have to tell you that I am concerned from the very beginning when you came to us. I also said that, were you going to have community meetings to do outreach for not only the businesses, but the Methodist church that's there, that has a daycare center, that has a lot of activities that go on in the evening and on the weekends? They just had a huge immigration forum on Saturday where they had problems because of the relay that we were having, of having people, hundreds of people that came through there to apply for some of the services. You've never reached out to the Methodist church there. I asked her today. She said she never heard from you, and you're looking at me with that smug face, like saying, I don't care what you say, Councilmember Baca, it doesn't matter because we're going ahead.
Yeah,
I'm just letting you
don't
know.
Don't put words in my mouth, please, Councilmember Baca.
No,
It's not what I'm looking at. It's not what I'm looking at you at all.
Speak, please. Allow her to speak.
You are, and that's what I'm perceiving right now. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, for you to, at the last council meeting, you said that you wanted that this would be completing in 2020. We don't have that kind of time for you to be like 2-3 years from now in order to complete a downtown. Do you know what goes on? I'm sure you do, in construction, and how the streets are closed and everything. I have buildings, humongous buildings that went on across the street from me. They're finished in 7 months. Those buildings, landscaping and all. You don't have any type of landscaping. What type of landscaping are you planning? And I really do believe, and I will agree with Vice Mayor Rubio, this is a whole different project. As far as I'm concerned, we need to go back to the drawing board. When I explained this to the superintendent today, and I explained everything and all the changes, he said that he had no idea that there were so many changes in this project. So I'm sorry, but I really have to say that I feel that you've deceived us and you think you want us to give you an answer when this is a whole different project. And I'm sorry, I can't agree to that.
Mayor, I just want to make one more comment that I failed to make, and I really want to reiterate this because when we started with the DDA, and everyone's clear that I did not approve it, was because across the street, Mr. Baldwin was proposing to pay market rate value, which I think at the time, well, we didn't have an appraisal, so we're just going to have to guess. But across the street, it was $800,000 that the building was going for. And we failed to put it out to bid. If that was the intention of the city, we failed to put it out to bid. And the building across the street, even though the market rate was $800,000, they were offering up to $1.6 million because that's how coveted these places are, because everyone wants a place in the downtown. And we had the ability to make from $800,000 to $1.6 million, which what they were offering for the building next door. They went way above the market rate, and we're still trying to sell this property for a market value that we don't even know, because I haven't seen the appraisal either. And we're moving forward, and I haven't seen the value of that property. That's number one. But number two is, the fact that we're supposed to be trying to do what's best for the community. We're supposed to be trying to shape things for the community, for the business, for the residents. But it seems to me that this project keeps changing to fit the needs of the developer and not the residents. We're trying to shape it and change it and get this and discard that, and we keep changing it over and over again. What developer gets that in any other city? Either you produce what you say you were going to have, or you need to move on. But again, we need to do what's best for the residents and the businesses instead of trying to mold ourselves to fit the developer. The residents are the ones that are going to be, incurring the price of this. The traffic is going to be horrendous. It's already, we have complaints, and I believe like the Alberts and Mayor, the other day you mentioned to me too, how people park all over the place, and they're even going all the way to where you live. The Woods have expressed how they needed a parking permit because they can't even park in front of their own house. So what are we going to do when we have all these parking deficits, and everyone's parking all over the place? And I know what they're going to do. They're going to use our parking space, which is right here, and it's not for free. It is not. We didn't build a $5 million facility to benefit any developer. So I don't see adequate parking either. There's a lot of deficiencies here. And again, we need to be trying to fit what's best for the city of Baldwin Park and the residents, not how we can change the project so the developer can move forward with his project, even though it's been changed way too many times. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Monica Garcia.
Thank you. I take a different perspective on this. And, I served as a planning commissioner before I was a council member, and first appointed in 2001, so 16 years ago. And I recall at that time we were looking at a transit-oriented district so far in the distance, but, multifamily, mixed use. And these ideas, were all to support a revitalized downtown. And on the Planning Commission, I approved projects like Via Mod and, some of these other kind of catalyst stakeholders in downtown. And I think that the efforts that we've made since then have been to revitalize our downtown area. And maybe we have different opinions on how to do that, but I'm of the opinion that, like Monrovia, you bring bodies and you activate spaces and you bring disposable income so that you can, invest and recycle those monies into the businesses in downtown. That's what we've seen, not only in Monrovia, but, in a lot of these small towns. Covina, you've seen that. And so I recall back in 2007, getting in a car with some developers that were they were interested in looking at our city. What were the opportunity sites? And I actually took them to the site, to Sterling Way, and I said, this is a very small parcel, but there's opportunity here, and there's opportunity to support the businesses, as has been mentioned earlier. I mean, that's the point, is you want to support businesses, you want to create the bodies, you want to put the disposable income in that location, you want to activate the area. So, at that time, and this was in 2007, this was before Mayor Pro Tem Susan Rubio and Councilmember Cruz Baca were on the council, but on the council we were talking with these developers. And we were also looking at the loss of community redevelopment agency monies. And so we were, concerned about what incentives would we have to support the downtown area as we had envisioned, not only, in the previous master plan, but in the current master plan, as you've highlighted here. And so I appreciate your efforts, and I just want to state that. And I appreciate you looking at the site and looking at what's feasible. And I understand that the 26, for sale units are not feasible because of specific plan restrictions. Now you're proposing the 26 rental units. That I'm not in support of because I think we want to create ownership. We want to also create a balance to what we already have. We already have rental units and they're affordable. So what's the balance to that? You know, for sale, market rate, home ownership opportunities, I think. And so I would like to look close. I like to explore the 14 for sale units and to understand what's the ingress, what's the egress, and then also to understand, I know right now you're looking at a site plan for pro forma purposes, for viability, feasibility, right. But at some point it would be great to see what are the, parking, landscape, what you envision for this. And that would be my question. Can you answer that for me?
Sure. Alex, do you want to touch on that?
Councilman Garcia, Alex Hernandez again. There was a couple comments that were made regarding the compliance with the code, so I would like to just clarify that this site, our site plans have been reviewed.
Oh, there you go.
By planning. We've met with staff numerous times, and we have been told this fully complies with the parking requirements of the city.
Right.
So I wanted to make that clear first. Our site, both site plans, fully comply with the city's parking, open space, setbacks, per your specific plan.
Yes, I get that.
I wanted to make sure of that. And we have been working with staff very closely. It's a very tough site, as you know.
Yes.
To try to make something work here, to maintain access, we've been working with the owners. We have reached out to the owners. The reason we didn't reach out to every owner is because we didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
The original plan didn't work. We went, and with regard to the school district, we showed them the original plan. So I was in those meetings. I was kind of caught off guard when you said they didn't know what the plan was. We went with the original plan, same plan we showed you here. We met with them. We came back with another plan, showed them that plan, and it was clearly discussed that, yes, they would go for it. Now, they said their comment to both of us, we will have our attorney draft it, we'll get you a letter. Now, the board didn't vote. No, it didn't go to the board. We met with the superintendent. So I just wanted to clarify that for Matt's sake. I know he kind of, it felt like he was getting attacked there, but we were doing that purely to reach out to the owners.
As a gesture, yeah. I'm not in favor of a sign either.
And King Taco, we reached out to them. We actually met them in their corporate offices. We walked through the site plan with them. They expressed their concerns. We actually came back to staff with one of their suggestions. They said, maybe we'll go ahead and vacate that, but is there a way you can get us some designated spots out on the main drag? We came back to staff. Staff said it's not possible to do that. When we went back to the King Taco, they said, well, if that's not possible, then just leave us alone. We said, okay, fine. But they were not against our project. In fact, they liked the fact that we'd be bringing new customers to them in the downtown. And that was the same comment we had with the gentleman who owns the State Farm buildings at the end. He wanted to maintain his parking. He wants to make sure his customers are happy, his tenants. He said, I have no objection to your project, but I don't want to upset my tenants. So with that basis, we left him out and we looked for alternatives. So that's why the plan has changed a lot. There was setbacks, there was parking. A lot of adjustments had to occur. So just want to give you a little more background of how we got there.
Yeah, and I understand that, and that's why I say I'm saying thank you for exploring it, because I think, in the past, when I look back at past efforts, like with Trammell Crow and some of these other companies that we've talked with, because of the challenges, they've just walked away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what has the city been left with? An underutilized site. With no opportunity. How is this site serving the businesses? How is it activating the space? How is it bringing people? How is it bringing revenues and income, to the city and to the businesses? So I'm sorry, go ahead.
And with regards to the, on the site planning, we didn't just go with one plan. We generated probably 7-8 different site plans. We emailed them to staff for comments, and we made adjustments accordingly. One of the other big items that was hit was the appraisal. The city hired the appraiser. We paid for it, but the city had to approve that, and whether or not that was shared with you or not, we're not hiding anything from you. That was paid by the staff generated that and hired that consultant. They came up with valuation, and that's what we went forward with. So that we're testing everything against that appraisal. Mm-hmm. But obviously now going from 26 units down to possibly 14, And what we demonstrated there is a lot of to maintain access for all the different uses, that really shrinks what's available for development on this site.
Mm-hmm. Well, along Ramona Boulevard, we do have parking, so that will continue to exist and support our businesses. This site, you rarely see, I've never seen it jam-packed with cars. I've never seen it like a parking lot. Maybe one or two, but when you weigh the one or two parking spaces versus activating the space and really creating a community that will live and shop in our downtown area, that's a no-brainer for me. But please continue. I want to hear about the ingress, egress, and the parking spaces.
You have the power pointer?
You want it?
We haven't spent a lot of time working on the architecture. We wanted to make sure the footprints worked first.
Exactly, that makes sense.
Once you have the footprints, then you can start working on architectural design. But as here in this corner here, so we're maintaining the access to the All States parking lot, and his landscaping stays intact. So that's maintaining that, basically leaving that area intact. This road already exists. This access point already exists. What we were leaving here was a designated, basically a community park that could be used by the city. We would improve it. It can be used however the city would like, but we would maintain it. There would be no obligations on the city whatsoever. The sign, if the city doesn't want the sign, the school doesn't want the sign, we don't need to do that. We were only doing that because this triangle piece here, initially we were looking for them to vacate those rights so we could put a building here. But you can see now there's no building on that location, so we don't really need the school district to vacate that. The city has the rights to use this property now as right-of-way. So we can leave it as right-of-way. It can stay as street and sidewalk, and this could be park. So it can basically stay as is. We would need nothing from the district to proceed with that plan if we want to. Over here, we created a loop road that these would maintain access to all these property owners here. So they can, right now, if you go out there, it's not really a safe access. They're jumping over broken curbs, and there's really no defining lines.
Yeah.
This would now give them a clear path to get access to all their properties. This also serves as access to guest parking, which fully complies with code. And then every one of these units has a 2-car garage feeding into them. And it's the same if you switch to the for sale scenario. I think that's what's favoring the council, and that's why we're here tonight. We're ready here to hear that. If you want for sale, apartments go away. That's what we'll work on. So that's why we wanted to bring both options to you and get your input, so we can continue that due diligence process.
Right.
So here, this is a oh, did you switch it? That's for sale?
You have it. You have the switcher.
How do we do that, guy?
Side.
Left side? Okay. No, that's apartment. Here's a for sale.
So
Okay,
is this
here-
a one-way? This is a one-way alley?
It's a one-way in. This part loops around like this. This side over here maintains the access for King Taco because he has some guest park. He has his parking back here in a trash enclosure.
Okay.
So this curb cut already exists today. So basically, we're maintaining that, but also maintaining his access here.
Mm-hmm.
So this internal is a loop coming in and out, and then these all have garages to the back, and then all the guest parking here, trash enclosure. And what we did here, the way we designed this, is so that the units face out. So when you come through here on Main and Pacific, you're not seeing the back of a building, the
Right.
side of a building. Now you're able to see the architecture. All this open space right here is landscaped. You got landscaping all in here, all in here. You got open space here. You got a park here in the corner. Again, we haven't drawn it all up with the trees and the plants and all that because
Right.
we want to make sure the buildings fit first. And is this a concept that the city council would like us to continue to pursue?
Right. You start with the site plan and then you build from there.
Because we can add in here in the park. We can program that. What does the city like to see in the park? You'd like to see a couple benches, a fountain. We can put those things in there. At this point, there's just a placeholder. We know we can do a park here. Within here, we can program these open spaces as well and put something there that's nice. Because currently, there's really not much landscaping on that parking lot area.
And let me ask you a quick question, Alex. On the that little pocket park just north of that, is that where the that little shop tried to open and then shut down?
I think there's a restaurant right here right now.
A what?
Yeah, the one ton, yeah.
Yeah, it's a restaurant right
Oh, they're
now.
open? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
and then
right.
this guy's
Oh,
the
no,
this is the
okay.
State Farm building right here. Yeah.
Somebody smashed their window, so I thought they were closed. But okay, so they are just right in that little section, right?
That's right.
So they don't get touched at all. That sidewalk stays the same. The little access point to the parking lot, that all
Which
stays
is
the
great
same.
because then you just created people that will walk over and grab wonton for dinner, grab King Taco for dinner.
Correct.
You know, just I like this, and I appreciate your efforts, and I would support the for sale. Definitely not the rental, but I would support the for sale for the reasons that I stated. And I know that I'm being recorded, so I'll restate them again. I think that what we need to do is we need to activate our downtown area. This is a vision that we've had for 16 years plus. And I think that it will revitalize our businesses, our business area in the downtown area. We've struggled to do that. We've tried to bring in, big pieces like the transit-oriented parking structure, the Metro Link. That was long before I joined the council. Little businesses throughout the area. I mean, these people could go across to Morgan Park, participate in the community events. They could even walk over to Via Mar. I mean,
Via Mar, love it.
I think it's great. I support it. Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to make
Thank you,
some
Vice Mayor.
comments.
Yes.
I mean, again, we're just trying to make sure that this looks good for the developer, but you talked about underutilized property. It was underutilized until we designed a 3-acre plaza that would mobilize the community, and that's how you activate spaces. That was a space that's been like that since since we incorporated the city, I believe, and after we designed the 3-acre plaza, that's how we started with the intention of utilizing a space that had been pretty much dead for many decades. Number two, how do you get people to come and shop in your community? You provide a space for outsiders to want to come in. You're right. If you put 14 units there, those are the only people that are going to shop. You have a 3-acre plaza with the arts that we had intended, chalk art, a farmer's market, activities, music, 3 facilities, 3 other coffee shops for people to come and shop. We're dealing with thousands and thousands of people coming in and out, and it's visible from the metro station. And so that's how you activate people coming to our community. If you put those 14 units there, that's all you have, 14 units, and there's no guarantee that these 14 units are going to be shopping every single day and buying across the street when they can make their own food. Now, you talk about mobilizing a community, you have the metro next to a 3-acre park, and people are going to be coming in and out, in and out. Not only are you making the community a lot better, it's aesthetically more pleasing, but you have an open space for people from Monrovia and Covina and other people to come in, just like I go very often to Monrovia since I work there, and they have, an open space and plaza. That's why I go there, because it's beautiful and there's options. When you put something like that, you kill the ability to mobilize new dollars. See, what I would like to see is new dollars come to our city, not recycle the same dollars we have, not recycle the 14 that you proposed to put there, 14 units. I want thousands and thousands of people to come to all the programs that we had designed within 2 years. We had, Thursday, we were going to have Jazz Thursday, Mariachi Fridays. So tell me that's not going to mobilize the community. That's not only going to mobilize the community, but it's going to bring people to spend dollars here. And those restaurants or whatever the business is on Ramona, they could only benefit from all the foot traffic. And so you can't say it was underutilized. We were already spent $500,000 designing a park plaza that would utilize that space. Our community would benefit, our businesses would benefit, and we would not be relying on our residents for new tax dollars. This would be to invite others to come to our community. And I also see here that, and just to clarify, that was a 3-acre park versus now 0.78 units. And just to also add to this, the units that you were proposing was 800 square feet. That's, to quote you, Monica, when we're doing the Rome project, that's like a shoebox. And you talked about the kind of tenants you would bring when you have small spaces. And you're not going to bring a different kind of demographics to our community when you have such small units in between all these buildings. It's just not going to happen. So anyways, Mayor, I still think that we're still trying to work a way, trying to figure out how do we give this developer this land, because we keep changing and changing and changing, and it's not going to work. Our community deserves more than 14 units there. They deserve a park plaza, with coffee shops, which was the original plan that we spent $500,000 on, and from one day to another, we threw not only $500,000 away so we can give it to the developer, but again, we're not putting it out to bid where you can see what other residents or what other businesses would pay a lot more for that property. We are shortchanging ourselves, our community, and they deserve
Mayor?
better. Thank you.
Mayor?
One more. Okay.
Mayor, everybody's had an opportunity. I would like to
Yes,
also
go ahead.
just
Yes, sir.
come in and say a few points. First of all, I want to first thank the developer. I think you guys have done a wonderful job trying to put together this project. Reading your report, I know there was a lot of obstructions and a lot of difficulties in trying to put this project together. So I appreciate your being imaginative. You're trying to make something that would work here. With the constraints of the different property owners that you had with the constraints of the school district property, and just trying to make it all work and coming up with two options, I think that's fabulous. I want to commend you for a job well done. I know that from the time you got the DDA till today, you've been working a lot. I mean, I've seen all the information coming forth that's presented here to the council, so I can see that you've continuously worked, having meetings with the school district, having meetings with the property owners to try to make all this come together. So I just want to recognize you for that. Also, I want to, I noted something here. If you look at this property, the park project that Councilwoman Rubio is talking about would probably be obstructed because these same properties would be in the way of that park project that she talked about. So we'd still have issues in working with those. But and I respect my council members, and their decisions and their positions on different projects. Some we agree on, some we don't. On the Rome project, some of us agreed on it and some of us didn't. So, I respect your opinions, and I think our approach to economic development for each of us is different. And some of us have different opinions and therefore, different approaches. But I think that to put a 3-acre plaza next to a 3-acre Morgan Park across the street may not work. And furthermore, I would still ask the councilwoman, what would be the funding for this project, which I know you talked about in phases, but it would just, there is no funding for that project, and it never transpired, and that's probably why we didn't go in that direction. This project would at least produce some property tax and other taxes that we would be able to, to generate with that. I kind of disagree with you, Councilwoman Rubio, on how to bring in economic development. And I believe that it may not work if we build a park there and do all these activities when the activities should really be on Main Street. And we should create downtown activities, art and farmers market and activities, mariachis and all that on the Main Street and down Main Street on Ramona and move in that direction. I even think that our concerts in the park should be kind of moved and tied in more to our downtown to bring some of that downtown traffic. Another thing that I noticed, and I was talking to Tracy and Jerry the other day, is that retail is somewhat diminishing. I think you've talked to most developers today. The retail that we know in the past because of the internet and online marketing and all that, it's just not there anymore. It's not, there's a lot of empty retail spaces. Even here, the ones that are on Main Street and Ramona, you'll see a lot of empty spaces still. So if we built more of these retail areas, that then I think they may be vacant because I think it's hard to see that you have to keep them full. So I think that also if you look at the Rome project, Rome did use the parking structure. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that, we need parking here, and that's why we built that parking structure. So if for our downtown, if at some point it began to develop into a more downtown area that was more pedestrian friendly, we might be able to use that parking structure for that purpose. So I just think that it's important just to look at areas like Monrovia, Citrus Avenue, in those cities, or in Covina, how they use mixed use with retail and how that's the going trend, and that we need to kind of look at that a little more in Baldwin Park and how we can use that concept here. We did it with the Rome project. I think it's going to benefit. It's going to work well there. I think with this project here in front of Main Street, it could work. But I also see that it's a win-win because if we go with the 12-unit for sale option, I think we can also put in a civic plaza next to it and combine that with our city hall and still have that dream that we all have about the civic plaza and make it all blend together and work together. And I think that's something that, that we could look at it. Now, I know some issues have been brought up about the school district in terms of what we're working with, but the school district doesn't really have an oversight as far as what we do here as a city, although it is their property, and I appreciate that that the developer has gone out and reached out to them to see what we can do on that property. And if the offer was to them to put a sign there, I think we would put a sign there. And if the city is still going to put a sign on our property on City Hall, then we could move that. Just an extra sign we have to put, relocate it someplace else. So those are some of my thoughts. I mean, I think I'd lean toward the for sale 12 units. If we came down to that point. But anyways, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I'd like to respond to what he was saying. I mean, first of all, you said there's no funding for that project. How are we going to get it done? It was going to cost, I think, $1.2 million. And guess what? We just got $1.2 million from the state of California for parks. And we didn't have that park to build. So had we gone forward with the 3-acre plaza and you called it a park like Morgan Park, absolutely, totally different. Remember, we went out to our community, to every corner of our community, and we asked the community. And one of the things that we found is that the seniors don't visit Morgan Park because people are playing soccer and games, and it's just not a safe place for the elderly to be walking. It's not a safe place for kids to just go read, and it's not that type of environment. This was not going to be a park. It was going to be a plaza. A plaza has, water features, walkable areas, little coves for kids to read and seniors to sit down and people to stroll. It was going to have, this beautiful backdrop of a garden for weddings. It was well thought out. It's something totally different from Morgan Park. And so you say, the reason we didn't move forward is because we don't have money. That's a fallacy. Again, we just got almost the money we needed for that park. We got it from the state of California. So we have it. And not only that, but the measure that we passed from the county is also meant to help community like ours. Keep in mind that Baldwin Park was ranked the lowest in open space. We were the most park poor in the entire county, and that is because we're so built out already. So in open space, according to that report made by the county, is that Baldwin Park would benefit from as many open spaces as possible. Don't forget, we are nestled between 3 freeways, and we have a high population of kids with asthma and just other ailments. And so an open space, based on the county report, would have helped our community tremendously. So in terms of the funding is there. We wouldn't have to pay for that park. It's there. Number 2, you said that the same issues that the developer has in terms of the businesses and not wanting, that park there, that's also wrong. They're opposing his project, but we talked to all the businesses, including Kentucky, Knowles, and everyone else, and they were all for it because it not only the building of the homes is going to block the view of their businesses, but the park plaza would have opened it up, so it would have had 2 sides. For example, King Taco had already sort of discussed putting benches outside that overlooked the park plaza. So it would have increased their business, not diminished it by blocking the view of those businesses. And also, there's another issue that I want to address. So we keep going back to, at least in my view, how do we figure out how to move forward with this project? Again, we're thinking of the developer and how he gets his project done instead of thinking where we're at right now and what we need to make our community better. I still say that we can activate those businesses in our community by providing a space. Right now you talked about Monrovia. Monrovia only started building those multi-use projects when they invested in a park plaza. Their park plaza is called Library Park. It's a huge park in the center of the downtown with the water feature and trees, and Councilmember Cruz Baca and I toured every single park in LA County, and we borrowed the best of each park, including Monrovia Park, and that is what we need. We need an open space in the center to mobilize our community to take care of their properties, to mobilize our community to have pride in their community, and to mobilize our community to want to walk around and have that walkable community that Councilmember Monica Garcia mentioned. And honestly, we had already talked about how it would benefit the children in our community. For example, we had already designed the plaza with pillars for art, for the high school students to display their art, for children in the elementary schools to go on field trips. We were going to have a historical element where the history of Baldwin Park would be all over the park plaza in many different ways. And we were going to entice our kids who are very talented from three high schools to come and perform in the park plaza. That's how you get the businesses around mobilized. That's how you activate people to walk around. And that's how you help our businesses increase by bringing in new revenue, not keep recycling the same people from the same homes. So in terms of the money, that would have been taken care of. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, really, everybody's had just very quick. And as I respect our council members, what you guys think and your vision about what should be put out there, but the park was going to cost about $6 million. It was not 1.5. I can produce those documents. The county map did not show that this area that we're developing now needed a park. It needed park in other areas, but that's a discussion for later. But I'd just like to put out there, Mayor, just to make a motion to continue to move forward on this development and extend it for a 12-unit,
It's 14
units for sale. That's my motion.
Mayor,
Well, and I'll
I
second.
haven't finished my comments yet, and there's a motion already on the
There's
table.
a motion second,
And a
but
second.
go ahead.
I have some comments to make.
Sure.
First of all, Councilmember Garcia said that there's not a problem with the parking on Ramona Boulevard, and I have to disagree. I have gotten so many...
Mayor, I didn't say that. You're putting words into my mouth. What I said was that there is parking along Ramona.
Allow her to finish.
Mayor, if you're not going to make the
Mayor, you need
statements
to
accurately,
let
don't
her
make
talk.
them.
I know. Well, allow her to speak, then we'll address
Councilmember
yours.
Garcia?
Just let her say
What
that.
I'm saying is
You
make
don't like-
accurate
You don't
statements.
Hold
like
on,
me to interrupt you, so
Councilwoman
Make
Garcia.
accurate statements. That's all I'm asking.
Hold on.
Would you please?
Hold on. Allow her
Go
to-
ahead, just make
hold
accurate
on,
statements.
Hold on, you guys.
Thank
Hold
you.
on. Let's
You
just-
know what's really funny is that when I happen to sort of interrupt what she considers an interruption, she quiets me right away, whether it's a special meeting, whether it's a closed session or whatever, but yet you're rambling on.
I'm asking you to make accurate
I'm asking
statements.
you
I
to
think that's a
please
very
let me
fair and
speak.
professional thing to do.
Monica
I
Garcia, let's wait, and then
I
we'll
think
let-
it's very professional
Hold on.
of a colleague to ask another colleague to make accurate statements.
Councilmember Monica Garcia, hold on, and then.
You know what's really
I've
funny?
made my
Is
statement.
that anybody else, Mayor, you would have kicked him out of the council meeting.
Go ahead.
I want to say that whether, regardless of whether the verbiage is correct or not, according to Councilmember Garcia, but for what I understand is that there is not a problem with the parking on Ramona Boulevard. There is a problem. For many years, when I wasn't even a council member, thanks for reminding me, Councilmember Garcia, people would come up here that owned either the buyback store or the medical centers or wherever, that they had a problem with the parking, that there was not enough parking, that many people had to walk quite a distance. There is a problem with the parking there on Ramona. There always has been and there always will be. We had already spoken to the people from King Taco, and they had agreed that they were going to help with the opening up the backside of their stores and giving a chance to some retail. All of them were going to open up patios like they have in Pasadena, on Fair Oaks, near Colorado, right by that parking structure. That ugly alley that was there. I have parked there for years. That was an ugly, smelly alley. And if you see it now with music playing and all the tables and the umbrellas are outside, everybody, it's a beautiful area, and that's what we had proposed that it was going to look like. And there was also going to be a part for there to be a coffee shop and for there to be more sandwich places or something for people to be able to buy. The Rome project was supposed to have been so that there could be some walkability and there could be more business. But I would really like to see a survey, because I do not see the businesses in Baldwin Park progressing or moving forward other than what we have already. So the Superior parking, the Superior grocers, and all of the stores. The girl that just opened up the barbershop is having a heck of a time with her barbershop there, even though she just opened a month ago. So I'm telling you, to bring in more density into this particular part of Baldwin Park with the traffic and everything that we're already facing with the train and everything would only hinder not only to our existing residents, but also to the businesses in Baldwin Park. The other thing is that Monrovia was mentioned by Councilmember Garcia. Monrovia built out the downtown area first. So did downtown Covina. Now they're building mixed-use apartments and looking at, okay, we've got these restaurants, we've got these businesses, they're overflowing, whether it's Tres Vinos or whether you're talking about Rudy's in Monrovia. A lot of the cities are doing that. Fontana did the same thing. They built stores and everything. Now they're building apartments and even a hotel on Slover and Sierra. So we need to bring in the retail. We need to bring in the businesses. We need to think creatively. And then we will build the apartments so that the people that want to shop here can live here. And I think it's fantastic. Have we done a research on the schools? Are the schools overcrowded? Where are these children that are moving into these apartments? Where are they going to go to school? To Central? To Vineland? I've never heard anything about considering our school district. The school district, and unfortunately the president left, but she was shaking her head when the presentation was being said that the signage or the sign had been spoken about and had practically been decided that the school district would go ahead with the sign. She was shaking her head. There was no definite answer to that sign. And when we were doing the Civic Plaza, the school district had already said that they were donating the land because this was going to be something that would help our community. So I'm sorry, 12 rental apartments, when there's no real plan as to where these people are going to park, go to school, and the density of our downtown area, I think the project would work well, but in another area of Baldwin Park. You've got another project on Badillo and Ramona, which is a nightmare there with the train again. You've got two areas that are so dense with traffic coming in from everywhere, not just people from Baldwin Park, but you have not done your research as far as you say you've done a study. Come here at 5 o'clock in the morning when the train starts to pass. Stay here at 3, 4 o'clock on a Friday. You can't even move up Ramona Boulevard. I think, Mayor, the other day you said that Ramona Boulevard you can't drive on Ramona Boulevard at a certain time. It's bumper to bumper. So please take this into consideration. Our residents, our businesses are going to hurt because of this project. I'm not saying it's a bad project, but it's the wrong area for it. Thank you.
Mayor, and I just want to clarify one fact. You know, Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco said that the project was going to cost, and I'm talking about the Park Plaza, $6 million. That is a lie. The project was going to cost $1.2 million, which we got from the state of California, nearly $1.2 million. So that would have been paid for. The reason it was initially bought as a $3.4 million project because we have to have a long-term vision for the city. We can't be creating these little spaces without any cohesiveness. And so what we did is, because we have a long-term vision for the city, we had also asked the person that created the Park Plaza to also give us a sense of what it would cost in the next 10 years to give the city a facelift. I'm talking about City Hall, so they would match the Park Plaza. And then we also discussed buying a business that opens up to Ramona. And so that cost came in as a 10-year vision in case we wanted to do it. Everything would look uniform, not these little pieces where nothing matches. So that is why 3.4, not 6 million, 3.4 was discussed, but the park itself was $1.2 million, which we got from the state of California, nearly $1.2 million. So that would have been paid for. The city would not have to pay for any of the Park Plaza, and that's $500,000 that we already threw down the drain. If we decide to move forward with the Park Plaza, those $500,000 would be worth it because we don't grow money on trees, and $500,000 is a lot of money for this community. And lastly, I will say, again, we keep putting these little projects without a long-term vision, and I think that's short-sighted.
Mayor, so at this point, go ahead. Sorry
really quick,
go ahead.
I want to go back to the motion that was made earlier by Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco, and I seconded. And being consistent with the Downtown Transit-Oriented District Specific Plan, which we adopted as a City Council, page 24, which relates to opportunity sites. Key opportunity sites are identified for infill development or full-scale redevelopment based on factors such as the number and size of contiguous underutilized properties and or underutilized parking lots or right-of-ways.
and potential for creating a unified project. Opportunity sites should be prioritized and are marketed by the city as catalytic sites for new development in downtown. There is a significant opportunity to encourage public improvements and infill development, which is what this is, on city-owned parcels, which is what this is. While sites with multiple private owners tend to be more long-term opportunity sites, several opportunity sites are city-owned and one site is under single ownership, and that's what we're dealing with. So consistent with what has been approved in our downtown transit-oriented district-specific plan, I'm going to go ahead and let's ask, that the motion move forward and that roll call be taken, please.
But can I just clarify something? Yes, that was a specific plan that we did many, many years ago. And then years after, we paid Ames nearly $300,000 to do another specific plan. And when Ames did the plan for the downtown, which was years later, they concluded that the Park Plaza would be better in that space because it was small. It would open it up for more, foot traffic. It was close to the metro, and that's what they recommended. So that came after what you're citing. So a Park Plaza was recommended by the last person that did the specific plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. At this point, there's a
Mayor?
Yes.
There is a motion, but I have a question.
Okay.
I would like to know what the purchase price or what the appraisal was, because I've yet to be told yet. I've seen several presentations. I don't know what the appraisal said that you purchased that property for, because I'm going back to the Urban X that went for $1.5 million, and I would like to know so that all the residents and anybody listening will know what you purchased this land from the city of Baldwin Park for.
We haven't purchased the land yet, and the appraisal is available from the CEO, but we haven't finalized it because the density hasn't been finalized.
Could I please see what the appraisals were?
Yes, I can have staff send out copies to City Council tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So
Can I ask
get back.
just one question?
Hold on. Let's get to the motion. So it's been motioned by Councilmember Ricardo Pacheco, was seconded by Councilmember Monica Garcia. Are there any objections?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, but let's clarify the actual motion.
Yes, thank you. Can we clarify the?
Okay, so I made a motion to move forward, I guess it would be on the DDA extension, to look at 14 for-sale units. Is that City Manager, would that be the appropriate motion?
Yeah, 14 units?
14.
That is correct.
The motion is to give direction to staff to renegotiate the DDA for the 14 units?
Yeah, okay, yes.
That's what we're going to do, right? We're going to renegotiate, and we're going to work with you to come up with a DDA that has 14 Matt, is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's the motion to have direct staff.
Okay, well, he asked for an extension, didn't he, or no?
We were granted the extension.
They already
by the
got an
CEO.
extension.
Or wouldn't it be a new
Okay.
DDA because the project is changing?
Yes, it's going to be, we're going to have to renegotiate a DDA.
Okay, they'll renegotiate the DDA.
All right, okay, so at this point, Madam City Clerk, our City Clerk, roll call, please.
Was there a second?
Yes, second by Councilmember Monica Garcia.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes, motion passes 3-2.
So, Mayor, let me finish my last
Okay.
comment that you said. Look, to me, I find it really difficult to believe that this developer is investing all those millions of dollars in this site, is doing the DEA, spending money on plans, all these things, and you don't know what the appraisal is for a property you want to purchase. I don't know anybody that would spend all those thousands of dollars trying to invest in a city and not know what the price of the property is. That is unheard of to me. No one would invest money without knowing what the price of a property that they intend to build on is worth. That's just not good business. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Rivera, the appraisal was set based on the original site plan of 26 units. We've not had the opportunity to revise the appraisal and have the city engage the appraiser to revise the appraisal because we were looking for council's direction on the final number of units for the city to re-engage the appraiser and to complete the appraisal. So there's not a set value. It would be premature to talk values based on a original site plan which isn't here anymore.
Mayor.
All right, yes, Councilmember Cruz-Baca.
This is the first time that you've said this. I mentioned the appraisal earlier. You said that it had been sent to the CEO. However, why would the land value differ because you're building less than when you were building more? Land value, according to what I understand, is land value if I were to purchase a home and I tell them, guess what? I don't want the garage after all, and I want you to tear up all the landscaping, and because I want you to lower the price. Do you know how? I don't know anybody that would purchase something without knowing what the value is. What is the value of the land? That's what I'm asking. It should be the same whether you build a park or whether you build 100 units or whether you build 5 units. It should be the same value.
Land area is modified. If you look at this exhibit, this is where we're down to on the land area in the building envelope. So it's changed. So the appraisal will change accordingly.
So when will we, can I see that appraisal? And this is for the record, because the next time that we come and something's changed with what he's telling us, I want to be able to say, you told us this without me being called a liar.
Well, Councilman Baca, you should actually review and read the DDA thoroughly. The DDA requests that the city of Baldwin Park order the appraisal. You're fully in charge of the appraisal. We have nothing to do with the appraisal except we are required to pay for it after the city submits a bill to us. But we have no purview over the appraisal. The appraisal is done at the behest of the city.
But wait a minute. I'm not saying. I understand, and I read the DDA.
So
and we agreed to go ahead and hire the appraisal. We did. I even know the people that did the appraisal. We were given several names by legal counsel, and I agree with all of this. However, you are the developer. You should know how much you're purchasing the property for.
We haven't completed the appraisal based on the revised site plan yet. And we haven't prepared our numbers on the valuation based on the revised site plan yet. It's very simple. You look at an original site, it's very simple. You base an original valuation on a number of units that you can achieve based on a land area. If that land area is modified by either reducing it or increasing it, and just as if I was coming here tonight, rather than 26 units, I was telling you that I was going to put 125 units on the project, that would result in a higher valuation, potentially. So when the land area and the units change, the potential valuation can change when you've reduced the land area. And to that extent, you should talk to the CEO regarding the appraisal.
Okay, you know what? I will continue, and I don't mean to beat this to death, but I am going to tell you how ridiculous this sounds. And I am just asking, what was the appraisal on the original? Okay, let's go back. Let me reword this. What was the appraisal on the original plan? That's what I want to know.
You should direct that question toward the CEO.
I want to know what you were going to purchase it for. If we had the appraisal done, which it was our responsibility, what are you buying it for?
The original DDA, I have to get the original DDA. If you'd like me to get the original DDA, I can get it.
It's for the $800,000 then.
Okay. Let's do a study session like that. We could spend time separate. For separate. All right, no, but we'll follow up. So let's get that information to all of us, please, ASAP. Sure. All right, real quick, I'm just going to move for adjournment, but I just want to say this. Been on the City Council Plan Commission in 1992. I remember a big, huge project, didn't go through because of the land. 1994, a second one. 1997, I was so excited because they were going to build this housing there. Nothing. 1998, I was more excited because there was another introduction, and I remember those plans. Nothing. Year 2000, same thing. 2002, 21st century, thought we're going to finally get something in there. No, because it doesn't pan out, and that's what all these particular developers have said on and on and on. And that's important for me. Now, that's a busy thoroughfare. To see a park there with the way these vehicles traverse these particular areas, we're talking about major danger unless we're thinking about putting a big, huge wall around that whole area. At this point, I want to adjourn the City Council meeting.
But Mayor, let me just say one thing.
Yes.
You did agree, and you announced it at one of our concerts. A couple of years ago, you did say that you were in favor of that park, and you were really looking forward to having it. That's all I'm going to say.
But I also will say, Mayor, you're talking
for adjournment. Second, any objections?
Listen, Mayor, you're talking about 1997. We're in a different century, and we have millennials that want to hang out in our community. So don't compare to 1997 projects.
Good evening, everyone. Leave out ballpark. I almost forgot. Can't forget that.